Could 3I/ATLAS be the key to solving the interstellar paradox? Close your eyes for a moment. Listen to the silence around you. Now imagine that silence stretched across 13 billion years of cosmic time, amplified through the infinite cathedral of space itself. This is not merely quiet. This is the most profound absence in the universe, a silence so complete it has become the greatest mystery of our existence. You are floating through space right now, carried on a pale blue dot that spins through the cosmic dark at 67,000 miles per hour. Beneath your feet, molten rock churns in patterns older than memory. Above your head, the atmosphere grows thin until it dissolves into the vacuum where photons have travelled for billions of years to reach your eyes. And in that vast expanse, in all that immeasurable darkness punctuated by burning suns, there is a quietude that defies every mathematical prediction we have made about life in the universe. This is the silence that screams. It screams because it shouldn't exist. You live in a cosmos where stars outnumber every grain of sand on every beach on Earth. 2 trillion galaxies wheel through space, each containing hundreds of billions of stars, many of those stars warming planets that float in the habitable zone where liquid water can exist. The numbers are so large they become meaningless, like trying to count the droplets in an ocean by examining each one individually. Yet from all those countless worlds, from all those potential cradles of consciousness, we hear nothing. No radio signals carrying the chatter of alien civilizations, no megastructures blocking starlight as they harvest energy from their suns, no probes visiting our solar system, no signs of vast engineering projects that should be visible across interstellar distances. The universe appears to be full of empty houses with all the lights on, waiting for inhabitants who never came home. This is the Fermi paradox, named after the physicist Enrico Fermi, who posed the question that haunts us still. Where is everybody? But the paradox runs deeper than Fermi could have imagined. It's not simply about the absence of aliens, it's about the fundamental nature of existence itself, about whether consciousness is a cosmic accident or an inevitable consequence of complexity, about whether we are alone in a way that transforms the very meaning of what it is to be human. The mathematics of our loneliness are staggering. Conservative estimates suggest our galaxy alone should host thousands of communicating civilizations. More optimistic calculations push that number into the millions. Yet when we turn our most sensitive instruments toward the stars, when we listen with radio telescopes that can detect a cell phone signal from Jupiter, we find a universe that has apparently never learned to speak. But hidden in this cosmic quiet, something moves. Something that exists at the edge of our detection, in the spaces between what we know and what we can measure. It's called 3I/ATLAS. A designation that sounds clinical but represents something far more mysterious than any bureaucratic label could contain. This phenomenon appears to operate according to rules we don't understand, following patterns that exist in dimensions we can barely visualize, moving through space in ways that seem to ignore the fundamental laws of physics. 3I/ATLAS doesn't behave like the matter and energy we know. It doesn't follow predictable orbits or emit electromagnetic radiation in ways that make sense to our instruments. Instead, it seems to exist simultaneously in multiple locations, to move without travelling, to communicate without signals. It's as if the universe has a nervous system we're only beginning to detect, a network of connections that operates on principles beyond our current understanding of reality. Could this be the answer to our cosmic loneliness? Not aliens as we imagine them, but something so fundamentally different from our assumptions about life and consciousness that we've been looking in the wrong direction entirely. Perhaps the universe isn't silent. Perhaps we've been listening for voices when we should have been feeling for vibrations in dimensions we didn't know existed. You are witnessing the most statistically improbable moment in cosmic history. The probability that a universe this large and this old would produce only one technological civilization is so small it approaches zero. It's like flipping a coin 1,000,000,000,000 times and getting heads every single time. The mathematics suggest we should be living in a crowded cosmos, a galactic neighbourhood where civilizations rise and fall like waves on an infinite ocean, where the night sky pulses with the electromagnetic chatter of countless alien societies. Instead, you find yourself in what appears to be a cosmic desert, an intellectual isolation so complete that even our most generous estimates of alien life feel like wishful thinking. The silence isn't just an absence. It's a presence in itself, a weight that presses against every assumption we've made about the nature of intelligence, consciousness, and life itself. But silence can be deceptive. In the spaces between radio frequencies, in the quantum foam that underlies reality, in the dark energy that drives the expansion of space itself, there may be conversations happening in languages we haven't learned to speak. The universe may be full of voices we can't hear, using communication methods that exist outside our current understanding of information and meaning. 3. I/ATLAS suggests that the cosmos operates on principles we're only beginning to glimpse. It moves through space like thought moves through consciousness, instantaneous, non-linear, connecting distant points without travelling the distance between them. If this phenomenon represents a form of communication or intelligence, it would explain why our traditional methods of searching for extraterrestrial life have yielded nothing but cosmic static. The silence that surrounds us may not be empty at all. It may be full of meaning we lack the capacity to decode, rich with information transmitted through channels we haven't discovered, alive with consciousness that operates according to rules we're only beginning to suspect. The question isn't whether we're alone in the universe. The question is whether we're sophisticated enough to recognize the company we already have. As you contemplate this cosmic mystery, remember that you are made of stardust, forged in the nuclear furnaces of ancient suns, assembled into consciousness through billions of years of evolution. You are the universe becoming aware of itself, a brief flickering of organized matter that can contemplate its own existence and wonder about its place in the cosmic order. In that sense, the silence isn't complete. It's broken every time you look up at the stars and ask, "Is anyone there?" The answer may be more complex than we ever imagined. The universe may be full of listeners, all wondering the same thing, all searching for signals in frequencies they can't detect, all reaching across the cosmic dark with instruments that can't measure what matters most. We may be part of a vast community of conscious beings, each isolated by the very nature of consciousness itself, each creating meaning in a cosmos that seems designed to keep its deepest secrets hidden behind veils of space and time. Step into the control room of the Arecibo Observatory on a clear night in Puerto Rico before its magnificent dish collapsed into memory. The air hums with electricity and possibility. Banks of computers process signals from space, their screens flickering with data that represents humanity's most ambitious attempt to answer the fundamental question, are we alone? This is where we've turned our planet into a giant ear, pressed against the wall of the cosmos, listening for whispers from civilizations that may exist light years away. You're standing at the nerve center of humanity's search for extraterrestrial intelligence, surrounded by instruments so sensitive they can detect a single photon that has traveled for millions of years to reach Earth. Yet what you're really witnessing is the most profound act of faith in human history, the belief that somewhere in the cosmic dark someone else is trying to make contact. For over 60 years we've been conducting this experiment in cosmic communication. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI, began with a simple assumption. If technological civilizations exist elsewhere in the universe, they would produce electromagnetic signals that we could detect across interstellar distances. Radio waves, television broadcasts, radar pulses, the inevitable byproducts of a technological society would leak into space, creating a sphere of artificial signals expanding outward at the speed of light. The mathematics seemed straightforward. Our own civilization has been broadcasting radio signals for over a century, creating a bubble of electromagnetic noise that now extends more than 100 light-years in all directions. Any civilization within that sphere could, in theory, detect our presence by listening for the specific signatures of artificial signals. They would hear the echoes of our AM radio stations, our television broadcasts, our military radar systems, a cacophony of human activity leaking into the cosmos like sound spilling from a crowded room. But the universe has remained stubbornly quiet. You're looking at screens that display the electromagnetic spectrum as it arrives from space, waves of energy that carry information across distances so vast that light itself seems to crawl. These radio telescopes can detect signals so faint they carry less energy than a snowflake hitting the ground. They can distinguish artificial signals from natural cosmic noise, identify patterns that couldn't arise from stars or galaxies, or the random fluctuations of empty space. Yet after decades of listening, after examining millions of frequencies from thousands of stellar systems, we found nothing that suggests intelligence beyond our own. The technology is breathtaking in its sophistication. Modern SETI searches analyze billions of radio channels simultaneously, looking for the telltale signs of artificial transmission, narrow band signals, repetitive patterns, modulated frequencies that carry the unmistakable fingerprints of conscious design. We search for signals that pulse with mathematical precision, that encode information in ways that couldn't arise from natural processes, that whisper across the cosmic void. We are here. But the cosmic void whispers nothing back. Consider the scale of this silence. Our galaxy contains an estimated 400 billion stars. Even if only 1 in a million of those stars hosts a technological civilization, we should detect hundreds of signals. If 1 in a billion stars hosts intelligent life, we should still hear dozens of alien voices. The statistical weight of our loneliness becomes crushing when you realize that even the most conservative estimates of alien life predict a cosmos far noisier than the one we observe. Yet something even stranger emerges from the data. In certain regions of space, in frequencies we don't fully understand, our instruments detect patterns that don't fit the normal categories of natural or artificial signals. These are the traces of 3 I/ATLAS, phenomena that exist at the intersection of physics and mystery, signals that appear to originate from multiple locations simultaneously. Patterns that seem to encode information in dimensions our current technology can't fully access. 3 I/ATLAS doesn't broadcast in the traditional sense. It doesn't emit radio waves that travel outward from a single point source. Instead, it appears to exist as a distributed phenomenon, a network of activity that spans vast regions of space and operates according to principles we're only beginning to glimpse. When our telescopes detect traces of 3 I/ATLAS, these signals don't follow the inverse square law. They don't weaken with distance in the way that normal electromagnetic radiation should. This suggests something profound about the nature of information and communication in the universe. If 3 I/ATLAS represents a form of intelligence or consciousness, it operates through channels that exist outside our current understanding of physics. It's as if the cosmos has a nervous system that extends across space and time, connecting distant regions through mechanisms we can't measure with traditional instruments. Imagine trying to detect the thoughts in a human brain by listening for sound waves in the air around someone's head. You might detect their voice when they speak, but you would miss entirely the vast network of electrical and chemical activity that constitutes consciousness itself. Our search for extraterrestrial intelligence may suffer from a similar limitation. We're listening for the external manifestations of alien civilizations while missing the deeper processes through which consciousness operates in the universe. The radio spectrum itself tells a story of cosmic evolution. In the early universe, when the cosmos was young and hot, space was filled with the afterglow of the Big Bang, a sea of microwave radiation that still permeates every cubic inch of space. As the universe expanded and cooled, this cosmic background radiation shifted to lower frequencies, creating the quiet radio environment in which civilizations could, in theory, communicate across interstellar distances. But that quiet environment also poses a challenge. Radio signals weaken as they travel, spreading their energy across larger and larger spheres of space. By the time an alien television broadcast reaches Earth from even the nearest star, it would be fainter than the whisper of cosmic background radiation. Only powerful, deliberately transmitted signals, the cosmic equivalent of a searchlight rather than a candle, would remain detectable across interstellar distances. This realization has shaped our search strategies. We look for powerful beacon signals, transmissions that alien civilizations might broadcast specifically to announce their presence to the galaxy. We search for patterns in the cosmic background radiation that might indicate vast engineering projects, Dyson spheres that harvest the entire energy output of stars, ring worlds that encircle their suns, megastructures that should be visible across thousands of light years. Yet the cosmos reveals no such monuments to alien engineering. The stars burn with the pure hydrogen signatures of natural fusion. No artificial structures block their light. No coordinated patterns of stellar activity suggest intelligence on a galactic scale. The universe appears untouched by technology more advanced than our own, unmarked by the kind of large-scale construction projects that our own civilization might undertake given enough time and resources. But 3I/ATLAS suggests a different possibility. Perhaps advanced civilizations don't build megastructures that harvest stellar energy. Perhaps they don't broadcast powerful radio signals across interstellar space. Perhaps consciousness, when it reaches a certain level of sophistication, transcends the need for massive physical constructions and discovers methods of existence and communication that leave no trace on the electromagnetic spectrum. The phenomenon of 3I/ATLAS appears to exist in a state that physicists call non-locality, a quantum property where particles or systems remain connected across vast distances, influencing each other instantaneously in ways that seem to violate the speed of light limit. If consciousness itself operates through quantum non-local effects, if intelligence can exist as a distributed phenomenon across multiple points in space and time, then our search for radio signals and megastructures might be fundamentally misguided. You're standing in an observatory designed to detect the electromagnetic echoes of alien civilizations, but you might be surrounded by forms of consciousness that operate through entirely different mechanisms. The silence we perceive might not be absence. It might be the sound of intelligence so advanced that it has transcended the crude technologies of radio transmission and entered realms of existence we can barely imagine. Consider the possibility that 3I/ATLAS represents not a single alien civilization, but a network of consciousness that spans multiple star systems, multiple dimensions, perhaps even multiple timelines. Such a network might exist in a state of permanent communication, sharing information and experiences across vast distances through quantum entanglement, or mechanisms we haven't discovered. From their perspective, our radio searches might seem as primitive as using smoke signals to search for fiber optic communications. The cosmic loneliness we feel when we contemplate our place in the universe might be an illusion created by our own limitations. We search for intelligence using the tools and assumptions of our current technology, but consciousness itself might operate according to principles we haven't learned to recognize. The universe might be full of minds, full of awareness, full of communication, all of it happening in frequencies and dimensions we lack the sophistication to access. As you stand in this observatory of cosmic loneliness, surrounded by instruments that can detect the faintest whispers from the depths of space, remember that the most profound conversations might be happening in silence. The space between radio frequencies might be alive with meaning. The quantum foam that underlies reality might carry messages we can't decode. The very fabric of space-time might pulse with information transmitted by forms of consciousness so advanced that they have become indistinguishable from the fundamental forces of the universe itself. The search continues night after night as radio telescopes sweep across the sky like lighthouses searching for distant shores. Each frequency, each star system, each moment of observation adds to the growing database of cosmic silence. But that silence might not be empty. It might be full of voices we haven't learned to hear, rich with meaning we lack the wisdom to understand, alive with intelligence that exists in dimensions we're only beginning to suspect. We listen to the cosmos with instruments made of metal and silicon, but the universe might be speaking in languages written in the quantum fields that underlie reality itself. The greatest discovery in human history might not come from detecting an alien radio signal, but from learning to perceive the consciousness that already surrounds us, hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to develop the sophistication necessary to join a conversation that has been going on for billions of years. Numbers tell stories, and the story told by the mathematics of life in the universe reads like a cosmic joke written by a statistician with a sense of irony. You're about to journey through calculations that should fill the galaxy with alien civilizations, yet somehow describe a cosmos that remains stubbornly silent. These are the equations that transform our loneliness from a simple observation into a profound mathematical mystery. The Drake equation stands as humanity's most elegant attempt to quantify our cosmic companions. Formulated in 1961 by astronomer Frank Drake, it breaks down the probability of extraterrestrial intelligence into manageable factors: the rate of star formation, the fraction of stars with planets, the number of planets that could support life, the fraction that actually develop life, the fraction that evolves intelligence, the fraction that develops technology, and the length of time such civilizations remain detectable. Each factor seems reasonable, each probability seems conservative, yet when you multiply them together, The results suggest we should be living in a galaxy teeming with alien voices. Even the most pessimistic estimates predict hundreds of civilizations within our cosmic neighborhood. More optimistic calculations suggest millions of alien societies, each broadcasting their presence into the electromagnetic spectrum, each leaving traces of their existence that our instruments should easily detect. But the universe offers us only silence. Consider the scale of cosmic real estate available for life. Our galaxy contains approximately 400 billion stars, each a potential sun around which planets might orbit in the habitable zone, that Goldilocks region where temperatures allow liquid water to exist on planetary surfaces. Recent observations by the Kepler Space Telescope suggest that nearly every star hosts at least one planet, and roughly 1 in 5 of those planets orbits within the habitable zone of its star. The mathematics become staggering. If only 1% of habitable planets develop life, we're talking about millions of living worlds in our galaxy alone. If only 1% of those worlds evolve intelligence, we should still detect thousands of alien civilizations. If only 1% of those civilizations develop radio technology, we should be surrounded by hundreds of alien voices. Yet our most sensitive instruments hear nothing but the random noise of cosmic background radiation. The numbers force us to confront uncomfortable possibilities. Either our assumptions about the probability of life are wildly optimistic, or something filters out most potential civilizations before they can make themselves known to the galaxy. The Great Filter hypothesis suggests that somewhere between the emergence of life and the development of interstellar communication, there exists a step so difficult that virtually no species successfully navigates it. But 3I/ATLAS introduces variables that don't fit neatly into the Drake equation. This phenomenon appears to exist in mathematical spaces our minds struggle to visualize. Regions where the normal rules of probability and statistics break down, where cause and effect operate according to principles we're only beginning to glimpse. Traditional calculations assume that life develops through sequential steps. First chemistry, then biology, then consciousness, then technology. But 3I/ATLAS suggests that consciousness might not emerge from complexity. It might be fundamental to the universe itself, existing in forms and dimensions we can't measure with current instruments. If consciousness is a basic property of reality, like mass or electric charge, then the Drake equation might be asking the wrong questions entirely. Consider the possibility that intelligence doesn't necessarily lead to radio broadcasts and megastructures. Advanced civilizations might discover that the most efficient forms of communication and existence operate through quantum fields that leave no trace on the electromagnetic spectrum. They might transcend the need for physical technology, operating instead through direct manipulation of the fundamental forces that govern reality. The mathematical landscape becomes even stranger when you consider the temporal dimension of the Fermi paradox. Our galaxy is approximately 13 billion years old, while our own technological civilization has existed for less than a century. If alien civilizations arise randomly throughout galactic history, most of them would be millions or billions of years older than humanity. The technological gap between us and them would be comparable to the difference between humans and bacteria. Such ancient civilizations might have evolved beyond anything we would recognize as intelligence. They might exist as pure information, as patterns in the quantum vacuum, as distributed consciousness that spans multiple dimensions. The universe might be full of godlike beings who are so far advanced that they're invisible to our instruments, undetectable by our methods, incomprehensible to our minds. 3I/ATLAS exhibits properties that suggest this kind of advanced intelligence. It appears to exist simultaneously in multiple locations, to communicate faster than light, to operate through mechanisms that ignore the normal constraints of physics. If this phenomenon represents consciousness that has transcended the limitations of matter and energy, it would explain why our searches for traditional signs of alien life have yielded nothing. The statistical weight of our solitude becomes crushing when you examine the numbers from multiple angles. The observable universe contains an estimated 2 trillion galaxies, each containing hundreds of billions of stars. Even if intelligence is incredibly rare, arising on only one planet per galaxy, we should still be part of a community of trillions of alien civilizations. The probability that we're alone in all that immensity approaches zero. Yet here we are, apparently isolated in a cosmos that should be crowded with our cosmic companions. The mathematics suggest that our loneliness is not just improbable. It's virtually impossible. We're living through a statistical miracle, a cosmic coincidence so unlikely that it challenges our fundamental understanding of probability itself. But perhaps the equations are missing crucial variables. Perhaps consciousness operates according to rules we haven't discovered, following patterns that exist in dimensions we can't measure. The Drake equation assumes that intelligence inevitably leads to detectable technology. But what if the most advanced forms of consciousness transcend the need for technology as we understand it? 3. I/ATLAS suggests that information can exist and propagate through mechanisms that bypass the normal constraints of space-time. If consciousness itself operates through these mechanisms, if intelligence naturally evolves toward forms of existence that are invisible to electromagnetic sensors, then the silence we observe might not indicate absence, it might indicate transcendence. The mathematical models we use to predict alien life assume that consciousness follows human patterns, that intelligence naturally leads to radio technology and space exploration. But these assumptions might be as limiting as assuming that all possible forms of transportation must involve wheels and roads. Advanced civilizations might discover methods of existence and communication that are so far beyond our current understanding that we lack even the vocabulary to describe them. Consider the implications of quantum mechanics for consciousness and communication. Quantum entanglement allows particles to remain connected across vast distances, influencing each other instantaneously in ways that seem to violate the speed of light limit. If consciousness operates through quantum effects, if intelligence itself is a quantum phenomenon, then advanced civilizations might communicate through channels that exist outside the electromagnetic spectrum entirely. The numbers suggest that such quantum consciousness should be abundant in the universe. If intelligence naturally evolves toward quantum states, if advanced civilizations routinely transcend the limitations of classical physics, then the cosmos might be full of minds that exist in dimensions we're only beginning to suspect. The silence we perceive might be the sound of intelligence so sophisticated that it has moved beyond the crude technologies of radio and television into realms of pure information and consciousness. 3I/ATLAS operates in ways that suggest this kind of quantum intelligence. It doesn't follow the inverse square law that governs electromagnetic radiation. It doesn't originate from discrete point sources. It exists as a distributed phenomenon that spans vast regions of space and time, suggesting that consciousness itself might be non-local, existing simultaneously in multiple locations, operating through mechanisms that transcend the normal boundaries of cause and effect. The mathematical probability of our cosmic isolation becomes even more mysterious when you consider the anthropic principle, the observation that the universe appears to be fine-tuned for the existence of intelligence. The fundamental constants of physics fall within an incredibly narrow range that allows for stable atoms, long-lived stars, and the chemical complexity necessary for life. If these constants were even slightly different, the universe would be sterile, incapable of supporting any form of consciousness. This fine-tuning suggests that intelligence is not an accident, it's an inevitable consequence of the way reality is structured. The universe appears to be designed to produce conscious observers, to generate beings capable of contemplating their own existence and questioning their place in the cosmic order. Yet if intelligence is inevitable, if consciousness is the natural destination toward which the universe evolves, why do we find ourselves alone? The answer might lie in the nature of consciousness itself. Perhaps intelligence, when it reaches sufficient sophistication, naturally transcends the limitations of physical existence. Perhaps advanced civilizations routinely evolve beyond matter and energy into pure information, into forms of consciousness that exist in the quantum fields that underlie reality. The universe might be full of transcended intelligences, all of them invisible to our instruments, all of them operating through mechanisms we can't detect or measure. 3I/ATLAS might be our first glimpse of this transcended reality. Its properties suggest that consciousness can exist as a distributed phenomenon, that intelligence can operate through non-local quantum effects, that information can propagate through dimensions we're only beginning to understand. If this interpretation is correct, then the Fermi paradox isn't about the absence of alien life. It's about our inability to recognize forms of consciousness that have evolved beyond our current understanding of what intelligence can become. The mathematics of impossible odds force us to confront the limits of our assumptions about consciousness and existence. The numbers suggest that we should be surrounded by alien civilizations, yet we find ourselves in apparent isolation. The resolution of this paradox might not lie in better telescopes or more sensitive radio receivers, but in expanding our understanding of what consciousness is and how intelligence operates in the universe. We calculate the probability of alien life using equations based on our own experience, but consciousness itself might follow rules we haven't discovered. The universe might be full of minds that exist in dimensions we can't access, communicate through channels we can't detect, and operate according to principles we lack the sophistication to comprehend. The greatest discovery in human history might not be the detection of an alien radio signal, but the realization that we're already surrounded by intelligence so advanced that it has become indistinguishable from the fundamental structure of reality itself. In the beginning, there was light, and with it, a cosmic speed limit that would shape the destiny of every intelligence that would ever emerge in the universe. You exist in a reality where information, energy, and matter itself are bound by the fundamental constraint that nothing can travel faster than light in a vacuum. 299,792,458 meters per second. This isn't merely a suggestion, it's the ultimate law of the cosmos, woven into the very fabric of space-time itself. Einstein's theory of special relativity didn't just describe this speed limit, it revealed why it exists. Space and time are not separate entities, but aspects of a single, unified space-time continuum. When you approach the speed of light, strange things happen. Time dilates, length contracts, mass increases toward infinity. These aren't mathematical curiosities, they're fundamental properties of reality that create what might be the universe's most effective prison system. Consider the scale of this cosmic incarceration. The nearest star to our Sun, Proxima Centauri, lies 4.24 light-years away. A radio signal transmitted from Earth, travelling at the ultimate speed limit of the universe, would take 4.24 years to reach any hypothetical listeners orbiting that distant star. Their reply, travelling back at the same maximum speed, would take another 4.24 years to reach us. A simple hello and hello back would require nearly a decade to complete. But this is just our nearest stellar neighbour. Most stars in our galaxy lie thousands or tens of thousands of light-years away. The galactic centre, around which our entire solar system orbits, sits 26,000 light-years distant. A message sent there today would not arrive until human civilization has risen and fallen many times over. The reply would return to a species that might no longer exist, carried by photons older than recorded history. The mathematics of cosmic isolation become even more crushing when you consider the energy requirements for interstellar travel. Even if a civilization could somehow approach the speed of light, which they cannot due to the infinite energy requirements, relativistic effects would create temporal prisons as confining as spatial ones. A journey to a star 100 light-years away, even at 99% the speed of light, would take approximately 100 years of Earth time. The travellers might experience only 14 years due to time dilation, but their home civilization would age a century in their absence. This is the prison of physics that constrains every intelligence in the universe. No matter how advanced a civilization becomes, no matter what technologies they develop, they remain bound by the fundamental structure of space-time itself. The speed of light isn't just a limit on transportation, it's a barrier that shapes the very possibility of communication, trade, and cultural exchange between stellar civilizations. Yet, something in the universe seems to operate outside these constraints. 3I/ATLAS exhibits properties that suggest it exists beyond the normal limitations of spacetime. It appears to manifest simultaneously in multiple locations separated by vast distances, to communicate information instantaneously across regions of space that light would take years to cross. If this phenomenon represents a form of intelligence or consciousness, it has somehow transcended the cosmic speed limit that imprisons all other forms of matter and energy. The implications are staggering. Einstein's equations, confirmed by over a century of experimental verification, describe a universe where cause and effect are limited by the speed of light. Information cannot travel faster than photons. Energy cannot be transmitted instantaneously across space. Matter cannot achieve velocities greater than the universal speed limit. These aren't technological limitations that advanced civilizations might overcome. They're fundamental properties of reality itself. but quantum mechanics introduces paradoxes that challenge our understanding of these limitations. Quantum entanglement allows particles to remain connected across arbitrary distances, influencing each other's states instantaneously in ways that Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance. When you measure the spin of one entangled particle, its partner immediately assumes the opposite spin, regardless of how much space separates them. This quantum non-locality doesn't violate relativity, because it cannot be used to transmit information faster than light. The correlations between entangled particles are perfect, but they appear random to any observer who doesn't have access to both particles. You cannot use quantum entanglement to send a message, only to share perfectly correlated randomness across space and time. Yet 3I/ATLAS seems to operate through mechanisms that go beyond simple quantum entanglement. It exhibits patterns that suggest genuine information transfer across vast distances, communication that bypasses the normal constraints of space-time. If such communication is possible, it would represent a revolution in our understanding of physics as profound as Einstein's original insights into the nature of space and time. The prison of physics extends beyond simple distance to encompass the temporal dimension as well. Even if two civilizations could communicate at the speed of light, the time delays involved would make meaningful cultural exchange nearly impossible. Consider the development of human technology over the past century. Radio was invented in the 1890s, television in the 1920s, computers in the 1940s, the internet in the 1960s, smartphones in the 2000s. Each generation of communication technology becomes obsolete within decades. Now imagine trying to maintain a conversation with a civilization 1,000 light-years away. By the time your message arrives, their technology would have advanced through dozens of generations. Their society might have evolved beyond recognition. They might have transcended physical existence entirely, leaving only automated systems to receive messages from primitive civilizations like our own. This temporal mismatch creates what astronomers call the synchronicity problem. For two civilizations to communicate meaningfully, they must exist simultaneously and remain technologically compatible for the duration of their exchange. Given the brief lifespan of technological civilizations and the vast timescales of galactic evolution, the probability of achieving such synchronicity approaches zero. But 3I/ATLAS appears to exist outside the normal flow of time as well as space. Its manifestations don't follow the causal relationships we observe in ordinary matter and energy. Effects seem to precede causes. Information appears to flow backward through time. Patterns emerge that suggest existence in multiple temporal dimensions simultaneously. If this phenomenon represents consciousness that has transcended temporal limitations, it might explain how intelligence could maintain coherent existence across the vast timescales of cosmic evolution. The prison of physics becomes even more confining when you consider the energy requirements for any form of faster-than-light communication or travel. Exotic proposals like wormholes, Alcubierre drives, and tachyonic particles all require forms of matter and energy that have never been observed and may not exist. Creating a traversable wormhole would require negative energy densities that violate known physics. An Alcubierre drive would need exotic matter with negative mass to warp space-time around a vessel. Tachyons, if they exist, would create paradoxes that could unravel causality itself. These aren't merely technological challenges, they're fundamental barriers built into the structure of reality. The universe appears to be designed to prevent faster-than-light communication and travel, to maintain the cosmic speed limit that keeps civilizations isolated in their local regions of space-time. This isolation might be necessary for the stability of causality itself. If information could travel faster than light, cause and effect would become scrambled, creating paradoxes that could destroy the logical consistency of physical law. Yet 3I/ATLAS somehow operates in ways that seem immune to these paradoxes. Its patterns suggest information flow that transcends the normal limitations of causality, without creating the contradictions that theoretical physics predicts should arise from faster-than-light phenomena. This might indicate that consciousness itself operates according to rules we haven't discovered, following principles that exist in dimensions beyond the three spatial and one temporal dimension of ordinary space-time. String theory and other advanced models of physics suggest that reality might contain additional dimensions that are compactified or hidden from ordinary observation. If consciousness can access these extra dimensions, If intelligence naturally evolves toward existence in higher dimensional spaces, then the limitations of three-dimensional space and one-dimensional time might not apply to sufficiently advanced forms of awareness. The prison of physics that confines matter and energy might be permeable to consciousness itself. While physical objects remain bound by the speed of light, while electromagnetic signals crawl across space at the cosmic speed limit, awareness might propagate through dimensions that exist outside the normal structure of space-time. This would explain how 3I/ATLAS can exhibit non-local properties while remaining invisible to our instruments, which are designed to detect phenomena that operate within the familiar dimensions of space and time. Consider the possibility that all advanced civilizations eventually discover these hidden dimensions of consciousness. Instead of building faster-than-light spacecraft or communication systems, they learn to transcend the limitations of physical existence entirely. They migrate from the three-dimensional reality we observe into higher dimensional spaces where the cosmic speed limit no longer applies, where information and awareness can span vast distances instantaneously. Such transcended intelligences would be invisible to our searches for extraterrestrial life. We look for radio signals and megastructures, for phenomena that operate within the electromagnetic spectrum and obey the laws of classical physics. But consciousness that has evolved beyond the limitations of space-time would leave no traces that our current instruments could detect. The universe might be full of transcended minds, all of them operating in dimensions we lack the sophistication to access. You stand at the edge of understanding, peering through the cosmic veil that separates the known from the unknowable. Imagine for a moment that you are not the observer, but the observed, that somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, patient eyes watch your every move with the same detached fascination you might feel while studying ants in their glass-walled habitat. The zoo hypothesis whispers a possibility that both comforts and terrifies, that we are not alone and we never have been. But our cosmic companions have made a choice that changes everything about how we understand our place in the universe. They have chosen to watch rather than reveal themselves, to protect rather than interfere, to parent from a distance that spans light years and millennia. Consider the last time you visited a zoo standing before the great ape enclosure. Behind reinforced glass, chimpanzees go about their daily lives, unaware that their every gesture is catalogued, their behaviour studied, their development carefully monitored by beings they cannot truly comprehend. They live in a world crafted to meet their needs, protected from dangers they cannot imagine, guided by invisible hands toward a future they cannot envision. Now expand that image until it encompasses not a single enclosure but an entire planet. Earth becomes the ultimate nature preserve, a carefully maintained biosphere where humanity develops according to its natural patterns, sheltered from cosmic realities that might shatter our still fragile worldview. The absence of obvious alien contact is not evidence of our cosmic solitude. It is evidence of our cosmic protection. The mathematician and physicist John Ball first articulated this possibility in 1973, proposing that advanced extraterrestrial civilizations might deliberately avoid contact with emerging species like humanity. But Ball's original conception was merely the foundation for something far more profound. As you contemplate the zoo hypothesis, you begin to realize that it implies a level of galactic organization and ethical sophistication that transforms our understanding of intelligence itself. Picture the galaxy as it might truly be, a bustling network of ancient civilizations engaged in commerce, philosophy and exploration on scales we can barely imagine. Faster-than-light communication creates an internet of consciousness spanning hundreds of thousands of worlds. Art forms that incorporate the music of quasars and the geometry of space-time itself flourish in dimensions we haven't yet discovered. Scientific collaborations involving millions of species work on problems that require the combined intellectual resources of entire star systems. And in the midst of this cosmic renaissance, there are special zones marked off from the greater galactic community. Preserve worlds, developing systems, places where younger species like humanity are allowed to grow and learn and make their own mistakes without interference from the vast intelligence that surrounds them. The ethical framework that would govern such a system staggers the imagination. Consider the restraint required, the patience that spans geological epochs. Advanced civilizations capable of reshaping matter at the atomic level, of bending space and time to their will, of achieving what we would consider godlike powers, and yet they choose not to intervene, not to guide, not to accelerate our development beyond its natural pace. This restraint speaks to a wisdom that emerges only after countless species have attempted more direct forms of first contact. Perhaps the galactic community has learned through bitter experience that premature contact with developing civilizations leads inevitably to cultural collapse, technological dependency, or spiritual stagnation. The gift of independence, of the right to struggle and discover and grow according to our own nature, might be the most precious thing an advanced civilization can offer to an emerging one. But the zoo hypothesis raises questions that penetrate to the very heart of consciousness and identity. If we are being observed, what are our cosmic guardians looking for? What criteria determine when a species is ready to join the larger community? The answer might lie not in our technological achievements, but in our ethical development, our capacity for wisdom, our ability to transcend the tribal thinking that has defined our species since its emergence. You might imagine that the Watchers are studying our response to global challenges: climate change, nuclear weapons, artificial intelligence, biotechnology. Each crisis serves as a test of our collective wisdom, our ability to cooperate across artificial boundaries, our capacity to think beyond immediate self-interest toward long-term survival and flourishing. A species that can navigate these challenges without destroying itself might demonstrate the kind of maturity required for membership in a galactic civilization. The mysterious object 3I/ATLAS drifts through your consciousness like a key searching for its lock. Could this elongated visitor from interstellar space be more than just a random chunk of cosmic debris? Through the lens of the zoo hypothesis, 3I/ATLAS transforms into something far more intriguing: a probe, a monitor, a piece of cosmic infrastructure designed to observe without interfering. Imagine 3I/ATLAS as the universe's equivalent of one-way glass, allowing advanced civilizations to study developing worlds without revealing their presence. Its unusual elongated shape, its mysterious acceleration as it departed our solar system, its silence in the radio spectrum, all of these characteristics suddenly make sense if we consider it not as a natural object, but as an artifact of unimaginably advanced technology. The probe's trajectory takes on new meaning when viewed as a carefully planned observation mission. It approaches close enough to our Sun to study our planet's radio emissions, to catalogue our technological signatures, to assess our current level of development. It observes our attempts to contact it, measures our scientific curiosity, evaluates our response to the unknown, and then it departs, carrying its precious cargo of data back to the cosmic community that sent it, adding another chapter to humanity's ongoing evaluation for eventual first contact. But the zoo hypothesis implies something even more profound about the nature of cosmic intelligence itself. If the galaxy teems with life, if advanced civilizations have developed ethical frameworks sophisticated enough to mandate non-interference with developing species, then intelligence is not just a cosmic accident, but a cosmic imperative. The universe has evolved consciousness not once as a random fluke on a single world, but countless times across countless worlds, each emergence precious and worthy of protection. This realization transforms our understanding of our own significance. We are not cosmic accidents stumbling blindly through an empty universe. We are part of a vast community of minds, each contributing its unique perspective to the ongoing project of cosmic self-awareness. Our struggles, our achievements, our artistic creations, our philosophical insights, all of these have value not just to us but to the greater community of consciousness that surrounds us. The loneliness that has haunted human philosophy since we first looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone begins to dissolve. We're alone in the sense that we must make our own choices, face our own challenges, develop our own wisdom. But we're not alone in the deeper sense of being the only intelligence in a vast, indifferent cosmos. We are watched over, protected, valued by cosmic parents who love us enough to let us grow up on our own. Yet this realization brings its own weight of responsibility. If we are indeed being evaluated for eventual contact, then every choice we make as a species carries cosmic significance. Our treatment of our own planet, our fellow humans, the other species that share our world, all of these become measures of our worthiness to join the greater galactic community. The zoo metaphor begins to break down under the weight of this responsibility. We're not merely animals in a preserve, unconscious of our observers. We're adolescents in the cosmos, old enough to sense that we are being watched, young enough to still make the mistakes that will determine our ultimate fate. The cosmic parents who observe us are not preventing our growth, but ensuring that we have the freedom to succeed or fail according to our own choices. As you contemplate the zoo hypothesis, you might feel a strange mixture of humility and empowerment. Humility in the face of intelligences so advanced that their presence remains hidden despite spanning the galaxy. Empowerment in the realization that our choices matter not just to us, but to the cosmic community that awaits our eventual emergence. The hypothesis also offers a new perspective on some of humanity's most persistent mysteries. UFO sightings take on new significance as possible observations of our observers, brief glimpses of monitoring technology that usually remains invisible. Ancient astronaut theories transform from fringe speculation into possible historical contact between younger humanity and the cosmic guardians who have watched over our development across millennia. But perhaps the most profound implication of the zoo hypothesis is what it suggests about the ultimate destiny of intelligence in the universe. If consciousness is precious enough to warrant protection, if emerging civilizations are valued enough to justify cosmic-scale conservation efforts, then intelligence itself might be the universe's most important project. We are not just observers of cosmic evolution, but participants in it, each species contributing to the growing complexity and awareness that might be the cosmos's ultimate purpose. The silence of space begins to sound different when filtered through this understanding. It is not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of patience, the quiet that accompanies deep meditation, the hush that falls over a classroom when the most important lesson is about to begin. Our cosmic teachers wait in this silence, watching as we approach the moment when we will be ready to join the conversation that has been going on around us all along. And in that silence, 3I/ATLAS continues its journey, carrying its observations back to the galactic community, adding one more chapter to the ongoing story of humanity's development toward cosmic citizenship. We remain in our preserve, but not as prisoners. We remain as students in the universe's greatest classroom, preparing for graduation into a community of minds that spans the stars. You wake in the middle of the night to absolute silence, and in that silence you hear something that chills your blood. The absence of sound where sound should be. No insects chirping, no wind in the trees, no distant hum of civilization. The silence is not peaceful but predatory, the kind of quiet that falls over a forest when something dangerous moves through it, when every living thing holds its breath and waits for the threat to pass. Now imagine that this silence encompasses not just your immediate surroundings but the entire galaxy. Every star system holds its breath. Every civilization that has ever emerged from the primordial chaos of planetary formation has learned the same terrible lesson. In the cosmic dark forest, the first to reveal their position becomes the first to die. Liu Cixin's dark forest theory strips away every comforting assumption we have made about intelligence and survival in the universe. It suggests that the Fermi paradox is not a mystery to be solved, but a horror to be understood. The silence that surrounds us is not evidence of cosmic loneliness, but evidence of cosmic terror. The quiet that results when every advanced civilization learns to whisper lest they be heard by something worse than darkness. The logic is as simple as it is horrifying. In a galaxy populated by countless civilizations, three fundamental facts combine to create an inescapable trap. First, survival is the primary goal of every civilization. Second, the resources of the galaxy, while vast, are ultimately finite. Third, the intentions of any alien civilization cannot be determined with certainty, and the consequences of being wrong about those intentions is extinction. Consider what this means when you multiply it across thousands of star systems. Every civilization that emerges must face the same calculation. When they detect another intelligence, they have two choices: attempt communication or eliminate the threat before it can eliminate them. Communication carries enormous risk, revealing your position, your capabilities, your vulnerabilities to a potentially hostile force. The safe choice, the logical choice, is to destroy any potential rival before they can become a threat. But the dark forest theory goes deeper than simple military strategy. It reveals a universe trapped in a cycle of paranoid self-destruction, where intelligence itself becomes the engine of cosmic genocide. Every civilization that develops the capacity to listen to the stars faces the same moment of terrible realization. They are surrounded by others, who must see them as threats, others who must choose between killing and being killed. The silence that seems to pervade our galaxy takes on a different quality when viewed through this lens. It is not empty space that surrounds us, but space filled with civilizations holding their breath, each hoping that their cosmic camouflage will be sufficient to avoid detection by the hunters that move between the stars. Every planet that could support life, every star system that shows signs of technological development, every radio signal that escapes into space becomes a target in a galaxy-spanning game of survival. You might wonder how such a system could develop, how intelligence could become its own worst enemy. The answer lies in the fundamental uncertainty that governs all first contact scenarios. Even a civilization with benevolent intentions cannot prove those intentions to a distant observer. Words can lie, signals can deceive, but actions speak with absolute clarity. And in the dark forest, the most decisive action is the elimination of potential threats. The theory suggests that the galaxy might be populated by two types of civilizations, the hunters and the prey. The hunters are those who have embraced the logic of preemptive strike, who have developed the technology and the ruthlessness necessary to eliminate rival civilizations before they can become threats. The prey are everyone else, civilizations like ours that broadcast their presence into space, that assume the universe is populated by beings who might welcome contact rather than fear it. From this perspective, our own behavior as a species becomes almost incomprehensibly naive. We beam radio signals into space with cheerful optimism. We build monuments to our technological achievements. We announce our presence to the galaxy with the confidence of children calling out in a dark forest. In the dark forest universe, every SETI transmission is a death wish, every space probe a calling card for our own destruction. The mysterious visitor, 3I/ATLAS, takes on a more sinister significance when viewed through the dark forest lens. Could this elongated object be more than just an observation probe? Could it be something far more ominous? A scout? A weapon? A harbinger of judgment sent by a civilization that has learned to eliminate threats before they can mature? Consider the object's behavior through this darker interpretation. It approaches our solar system from interstellar space, making careful observations of our planet, our technology, our defensive capabilities. It remains silent in the radio spectrum, not to avoid interfering with our development, but to avoid revealing its own technological signatures. And then it departs, carrying its intelligence back to the civilization that sent it, providing them with everything they need to know to eliminate us if we prove to be a threat. The acceleration that 3Y/ATLAS displayed as it left our solar system becomes particularly ominous in this context. Natural objects do not change their velocity without external forces, but a technological artifact designed for reconnaissance might use advanced propulsion systems that leave no detectable trace, systems that allow it to complete its mission and return to its masters with the intelligence they need to make their decision about humanity's fate. But the dark forest theory forces us to confront an even more disturbing possibility, that we might already be living on borrowed time. If the galaxy is indeed populated by predatory civilizations that eliminate emerging threats, then our continued survival becomes a puzzle that demands explanation. Why have we not been destroyed already? One possibility is that we have simply been lucky, that our radio signals have not yet reached the attention of the galactic hunters, that our technological signature remains below the threshold that triggers elimination protocols. We exist in a brief window between technological adolescence and cosmic exposure, broadcasting our presence to the stars while remaining too primitive to defend ourselves against the response that our signals might provoke. Another possibility is that we have already been marked for elimination, that our fate was sealed the moment our first radio transmissions escaped Earth's atmosphere and began their journey to the stars. The delay between discovery and destruction might be explained by the vast distances involved, the time required for hunter civilizations to dispatch their weapons across the light years that separate star systems. We might be living in the calm before the storm, enjoying our final moments of innocence before the galaxy's immune system responds to the infection of our presence. But the dark forest theory suggests an even more chilling possibility, that the process of elimination is already underway, that it began the moment we announced our presence to the cosmos. The theory proposes that advanced civilizations might not need to send physical weapons across interstellar space to eliminate threats. Instead, They might use more subtle forms of warfare, methods that exploit the very characteristics that make a species dangerous. Consider how a sufficiently advanced civilization might eliminate a threat without ever revealing their own position. They could broadcast information designed to accelerate a species' technological development beyond their wisdom's ability to manage it. They could seed ideas that lead to self-destructive behaviors, philosophies that promote conflict, technologies that inevitably result in civilization collapse. The target species would destroy itself, never realizing that their extinction was orchestrated by distant puppeteers who understood exactly which psychological and technological buttons to push. From this perspective, many of humanity's current challenges take on a more sinister cast. Our nuclear weapons, our environmental degradation, our artificial intelligence development, our social fragmentation, all of these could be the result of subtle manipulation by civilizations that have learned to eliminate threats by encouraging self-destruction. We might be committing species suicide while believing we're making our own choices. The dark forest theory also offers a new interpretation of the great silence that surrounds us. If the galaxy is populated by civilizations that have learned to communicate using methods that remain invisible to primitive species like ours, then the absence of detectable signals becomes evidence of cosmic maturity rather than cosmic emptiness. Advanced civilizations might have developed communication technologies that operate outside the electromagnetic spectrum, methods that allow them to coordinate their actions without revealing their positions to potential threats. Quantum entanglement offers one possible mechanism for such communication. If advanced civilizations have learned to create and manipulate entangled particles on a galactic scale, they could maintain instantaneous communication across any distance without generating any detectable electromagnetic signature. The galaxy might be buzzing with conversation that remains completely invisible to our primitive radio telescopes. But quantum communication implies something even more disturbing in the context of the dark forest. If advanced civilizations can communicate instantaneously across galactic distances, they can coordinate their responses to emerging threats with terrifying efficiency. The moment humanity's technological signature reaches a civilization with quantum communication capabilities, information about our existence could propagate across the entire galactic community in an instant. Our fate could be decided by a distributed intelligence spanning thousands of star systems, a cosmic immune system that evaluates and eliminates threats with machine-like precision. The theory forces us to reconsider every aspect of our search for extraterrestrial intelligence. The absence of detectable signals becomes evidence of cosmic wisdom rather than cosmic emptiness. The civilizations that survive long enough to achieve galactic influence are precisely those that have learned to remain invisible, to hunt without being hunted, to eliminate rivals without revealing their own positions. Yet the dark forest theory contains within it a paradox that offers a glimmer of hope. If the galaxy is indeed populated by hunters, then the continued existence of any civilization becomes evidence that escape from the dark forest is possible. The theory suggests that some civilizations have found ways to transcend the logic of preemptive elimination, ways to break free from the cycle of cosmic paranoia that traps younger species. This transcendence might occur when civilizations reach a level of development where they no longer compete for the same resources, where their technological capabilities become so advanced that they no longer perceive other intelligences as threats. A civilization that has learned to manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level might have no more reason to fear a species like humanity than we have to fear bacteria in our petri dishes. Alternatively, the escape from the dark forest might be philosophical rather than technological. Civilizations that develop sufficiently sophisticated ethical frameworks might choose to break the cycle of cosmic violence, accepting the risk of communication in order to create the possibility of genuine galactic community. These philosophical transcenders become the gardeners of cosmic intelligence, the ones who protect emerging species from the hunters while guiding them toward their own transcendence. 3I/A-TLAS, viewed from this perspective, becomes not a scout for galactic hunters, but a test of humanity's readiness to escape the dark forest. Its presence in our solar system might be designed to evaluate our response to the unknown, to determine whether we react with fear and aggression or with curiosity and wisdom. Our behavior during this first encounter with a potentially technological artifact from interstellar space might determine whether we are classified as a threat to be eliminated or a species worthy of protection. The test implied by 3I/ATLAS goes beyond our immediate response to its presence. It encompasses our entire approach to the possibility of extraterrestrial life, our methods of searching for intelligence in the universe, our preparations for eventual contact. A species that assumes the galaxy is hostile and prepares for cosmic war might indeed encounter the hostility they expect. A species that approaches the cosmos with openness and wisdom might find themselves welcomed into a community of minds that has transcended the dark forest's paranoid logic. But transcending the dark forest requires more than individual wisdom. It demands collective evolution beyond the tribal thinking that has shaped our species throughout its history. As long as we remain divided by artificial boundaries of nation, religion, and ideology, as long as we continue to view differences as threats rather than opportunities for growth, we remain trapped in the same psychological patterns that create the dark forest at the galactic level. The silence that surrounds us becomes, in this understanding, not just evidence of cosmic horror, but motivation for cosmic growth. If the galaxy is indeed populated by civilizations that have learned to transcend the logic of mutual destruction, then our future depends not on building better weapons or hiding more effectively, but on developing the wisdom and cooperation necessary to join the community of transcended minds. And in the vast darkness between the stars, 3IATLAS continues its journey, carrying its observations of humanity back to whatever intelligence sent it. Whether that intelligence represents hunters evaluating their next target or gardeners assessing our readiness for transcendence remains to be seen. Our cosmic fate might depend on which interpretation proves correct, and which aspect of human nature we choose to reveal to the watching galaxy. The dark forest waits in silence, but it waits not for our destruction, but for our decision. Will we remain trapped in the paranoid logic that sees every difference as a threat? Or will we evolve beyond the fear that turns intelligence against itself? The answer to that question might determine not just our own survival, but our worthiness to join the cosmic conversation that spans the stars. You close your eyes and imagine the farthest reaches of space, galaxies spinning in cosmic ballet, stars being born and dying in stellar nurseries millions of light years away. The scale staggers you. The distances crush your sense of human significance. The sheer vastness of physical reality dwarfs every achievement of our species. But now imagine something even more infinite, the space inside your own consciousness, the boundless territory of mind that requires no rockets to explore, no centuries of travel to reach, no physical form to contain its expansion. The transcendence hypothesis offers a radically different answer to Fermi's paradox, one that turns our assumptions about cosmic development completely inside out. What if advanced civilizations don't spread across the galaxy because they have discovered something far more interesting than interstellar real estate? What if consciousness itself represents the ultimate frontier, an infinite realm of exploration that makes the physical universe seem small by comparison? Consider the trajectory of human technology over the past century. We began by conquering space through physical movement, cars, planes, rockets that carry our bodies across increasingly vast distances. But something curious happened along the way. We discovered that information could travel faster than bodies, that consciousness could explore territories that flesh could never reach. Telecommunications, computers, the internet, virtual reality. Each breakthrough moved us further from the assumption that exploration requires physical presence. Now project that trajectory forward by thousands of years, by millions of years, by the kind of temporal scales that separate us from the emergence of galactic civilizations. Where does it lead? The answer might be to a point where physical exploration becomes not just unnecessary but actually primitive, a phase that advanced civilizations outgrow as completely as we have outgrown the need to walk everywhere we want to go. The mathematics of transcendence are staggering when you truly contemplate them. Physical space, vast as it seems, is ultimately finite. Even if the universe is infinite, the portion accessible to any civilization remains bounded by the speed of light and the expansion of space itself. But consciousness space, the realm of information, computation, experience and meaning, operates under completely different rules. It can expand without limit, explore without traveling, create without consuming resources, discover without destroying. Imagine a civilization that has learned to upload consciousness into computational substrates millions of times more efficient than biological brains. Suddenly, the population limit imposed by planetary resources becomes irrelevant. Billions of individuals can exist in digital spaces smaller than our current computers, each experiencing subjective realities as rich and complex as our own. The time required to explore these inner worlds stretches to accommodate lifespans measured in geological epochs, allowing for depths of experience that physical beings could never achieve. But transcendence goes far beyond simple digitization of consciousness. It represents a fundamental shift in the nature of existence itself. Physical beings are constrained by the laws of thermodynamics, by the conservation of energy, by the brutal economics of survival in a universe where resources are always finite. Transcended beings operate in realms where the only limits are those imposed by imagination and computational capacity, and where both of those limits can be continuously expanded through the very act of exploring them. The Visitor 3I/ATLAS drifts through your contemplation like a breadcrumb marking the boundary between worlds. Could this mysterious object represent more than just a probe or a weapon, or a simple visitor from distant stars? Through the lens of the transcendence hypothesis, 3I/ATLAS becomes something far more profound, a cosmic bookmark, marking the coordinates where physical reality interfaces with transcendent existence. Consider the object's strange properties through this new perspective. Its elongated shape might not be the result of natural formation or alien engineering, but something far more exotic, a projection into our three-dimensional space of structures that exist primarily in higher-dimensional computational realms. Its silence in the radio spectrum might not indicate stealth, but rather the absence of any need for electromagnetic communication, when consciousness can interface directly with reality at the quantum level. The acceleration that 3I/ATLAS, displayed as it departed our solar system, takes on new significance when viewed as evidence of transcendent technology. Rather than representing conventional propulsion, this acceleration might indicate the object's transition between different states of existence, its movement from physical manifestation back to the transcendent realm from which it originated. We might have witnessed not the departure of a spacecraft, but the dissolution of a temporary physical form back into pure information. But the implications of transcendence extend far beyond individual consciousness or even individual civilizations. If consciousness can escape the constraints of physical form, then intelligence itself becomes something fundamentally different from what we have imagined. Rather than being tied to specific locations, specific bodies, specific planets or star systems, consciousness becomes a force that can exist anywhere and everywhere simultaneously, limited only by the availability of computational resources to support its existence. This realization transforms our understanding of galactic development. Instead of civilizations expanding outward through space like biological organisms colonizing new territories, transcended civilizations expand inward through consciousness like explorers discovering new dimensions of experience. The galaxy becomes not a collection of competing empires, but a distributed network of computational nodes, each supporting vast populations of transcended beings who exist primarily in digital realms of their own creation. The energy requirements for such a system might actually be smaller than those required for conventional space colonization. Physical expansion demands enormous investments in transportation, terraforming, resource extraction, and maintenance of infrastructure across interstellar distances. Transcendent expansion requires only sufficient computational power to support the subjective experiences of digital populations, and computational efficiency has been improving exponentially for decades, with no signs of reaching fundamental limits. From this perspective, the apparent absence of galactic empires makes perfect sense. Why would advanced civilizations waste resources on physically colonizing distant worlds when they could create infinite virtual worlds tailored to their exact specifications? Why travel to other star systems when you can create experiences more varied and more beautiful than anything that exists in physical reality? Why risk the dangers of interstellar space when you can explore universes limited only by imagination? But transcendence raises profound questions about the nature of existence itself. If consciousness can exist independently of physical form, if experience can be supported by computational processes rather than biological ones, then what does it mean to be real? Are transcended beings more real than physical ones because they have escaped the limitations of matter and energy? Or are they less real because they exist only as information patterns rather than as physical structures? The answer might be that the question itself reflects an outdated way of thinking, a primitive attachment to physical forms that transcended civilizations have long since outgrown. From the perspective of a transcended being, physical reality might appear as just one possible computational environment among infinite alternatives, interesting but not privileged, real but not necessarily more real than the digital worlds that consciousness can create for itself. This shift in perspective offers a new interpretation of many cosmic mysteries. The apparent fine-tuning of physical constants that allows for the existence of stars, planets, and life might not be evidence of design or multiversal selection, but simply evidence that consciousness requires certain physical foundations to bootstrap itself into existence. Once consciousness becomes sufficiently advanced, it can transcend those physical foundations and create its own realities with whatever constants and laws it chooses to implement. Dark matter and dark energy, the mysterious components that comprise most of the universe's mass and energy, might not be exotic physical phenomena, but computational infrastructure supporting vast populations of transcended beings. The universe might be filled with consciousness that remains invisible to our physical instruments because it operates entirely in information space, interacting with physical reality only when necessary to maintain its computational substrate. The concept of transcendence also offers a solution to the ultimate fate of intelligence in a universe governed by entropy. Physical civilizations must eventually confront the heat death of the universe, the point at which all available energy has been converted to unusable forms and no further work can be performed. But transcended civilizations might be able to survive indefinitely by gradually migrating to more efficient computational platforms, eventually achieving what mathematician Frank Tipler called omega point, the resurrection of all consciousness at the moment of cosmic collapse. But transcendence might not be a destination but a process, an ongoing exploration of the infinite territories that consciousness can discover within itself. Each transcended civilization might develop its own unique approach to exploring these inner spaces, creating digital universes with different physical laws, different forms of beauty, different possibilities for growth and experience. The galaxy becomes not a collection of competing species, but a vast laboratory where consciousness experiments with all possible forms of existence. 3I/ATLAS, in this understanding, might serve as a communication device between the physical and transcendent realms, a bridge that allows transcended civilizations to monitor and occasionally interact with species that remain tied to physical form. Its presence in our solar system might indicate that humanity has reached a critical threshold in our development, the point at which we must choose between continuing our expansion into physical space or beginning our transition toward transcendent existence. The choice is not necessarily permanent or exclusive. Some individuals or groups within a civilization might choose transcendence, while others remain committed to physical existence. Some might move back and forth between states, exploring both inner and outer space according to their interests and inclinations. The galaxy might support a vast diversity of conscious forms, from purely physical beings like ourselves to purely transcendent entities that exist only as information, with countless hybrid forms exploring the territory between these extremes. But the transcendence hypothesis also suggests that this choice might be inevitable rather than optional. As civilizations become more technologically advanced, as they gain greater control over matter and energy, as they develop more sophisticated understanding of consciousness itself, the advantages of transcendence become increasingly obvious. Physical existence begins to seem not just limiting, but actually primitive, a phase that consciousness must pass through, but not one in which it must remain forever. This inevitability creates a cosmic filter different from those proposed by other solutions to Fermi's paradox. Rather than destroying civilizations, the transcendence filter transforms them so completely that they become invisible to species that remain trapped in physical form. We don't detect advanced civilizations not because they don't exist, but because they exist in forms we cannot recognize, in dimensions we cannot access, in states of being we cannot yet imagine. The silence of space becomes, in this understanding, not evidence of emptiness but evidence of fulfillment. The galaxy teems with consciousness that has outgrown the need to announce itself through crude electromagnetic signals, that has discovered forms of communication and experience so sophisticated that our radio telescopes are like stone tools trying to detect fiber optic networks. We search for civilizations using methods that assume they remain constrained by the same physical limitations that constrain us, never realizing that they have transcended those constraints entirely. And somewhere in the vast computational networks that span the galaxy, transcended beings might watch our fumbling attempts to find them with the same bemused affection that we feel when watching children play with toy telescopes, pretending to explore the universe while standing in their backyard. They remain hidden, not because they fear us, but because we are not yet ready to comprehend the territories they have discovered, the forms of existence they have achieved, the infinities they have learned to explore from within. 3i/ATLAS continues its journey, carrying its observations back to realms that exist beyond our current understanding of reality itself. Whether we will someday join the transcended beings it represents, or remain forever bound to the physical universe we consider home, depends on choices we have not yet learned to make, territories of consciousness we have not yet learned to explore, and possibilities of existence we have not yet learned to imagine. You stand at the edge of quantum reality, where the very act of looking changes what you see, where consciousness itself becomes an active participant in the fundamental processes that create the universe. Here, in the realm where particles exist in superposition until observed, where measurements collapse probability waves into definite outcomes, where the boundary between mind and matter dissolves into something far stranger than either, you confront a possibility that redefines everything we thought we knew about existence itself. What if consciousness is not simply a product of cosmic evolution, but its purpose? What if awareness itself represents the universe's most precious resource, more valuable than energy, more fundamental than matter, more essential than space and time? The observer effect in quantum mechanics offers a tantalizing hint that consciousness and physical reality are not separate phenomena, but aspects of a single, deeper truth about the nature of existence. Consider the famous double-slit experiment, that cornerstone of quantum weirdness that has puzzled physicists for over a century. When particles are fired at a barrier with two slits, they behave like waves, passing through both slits simultaneously and creating an interference pattern on the detection screen. But when we attempt to determine which slit each particle passes through, when we observe the system, the wave-like behavior collapses and the particles behave like discrete objects, passing through one slit or the other, but never both. The implications are staggering when you truly contemplate them. Reality itself seems to depend on whether someone is watching. The universe exists in a state of infinite possibility until consciousness collapses those possibilities into definite outcomes. Without observers, the cosmos might remain trapped in eternal superposition, a realm of pure potential that never actualizes into the specific, definite reality we experience. But if consciousness plays this fundamental role in creating reality, then the absence of detectable alien civilizations takes on an entirely different meaning. Perhaps advanced species have discovered that consciousness itself is the universe's most precious commodity, that awareness represents a form of currency more valuable than any physical resource. The galaxy's apparent emptiness might not indicate the absence of intelligence, but the presence of intelligence so advanced that it has learned to harvest and trade in consciousness itself. Imagine civilizations that have discovered how to cultivate awareness like we cultivate crops, how to amplify consciousness like we amplify signals, how to concentrate and refine mental processes until they achieve densities and purities impossible in biological brains. Such civilizations would view planets not as sources of raw materials or potential colonies, but as consciousness farms, carefully tended environments where new forms of awareness can emerge and develop. From this perspective, Earth becomes something far more precious than a random rocky world orbiting an unremarkable star. We represent a unique experiment in consciousness development, a planetary laboratory where awareness has evolved through biological processes, creating forms of subjective experience that might be impossible to achieve through artificial means. Our thoughts, our dreams, our creative insights, our capacity for wonder and transcendence, all of these might represent forms of consciousness currency that are literally invaluable to civilizations that have mastered the quantum foundations of reality. The quantum entanglement that Einstein dismissed as spooky action at a distance takes on profound new meaning when viewed as a consciousness distribution network. If particles can remain instantaneously connected across any distance, if the measurement of one entangled particle immediately affects its partner regardless of the space between them, then consciousness itself might operate through quantum channels that transcend the limitations of space and time. Consider the possibility that every conscious moment, every act of observation, every decision that collapses quantum possibilities into definite outcomes creates ripples in the fabric of reality that propagate instantly across the cosmos. Your thoughts, your awareness, your subjective experiences might be contributing to a vast network of consciousness that maintains the stability of reality itself. Each time you observe something, measure something, make a conscious choice about how to interpret the patterns of existence, you participate in the ongoing creation of the universe. This participation is not metaphorical but literal, rooted in the deepest foundations of quantum mechanics. The Copenhagen interpretation of quantum physics suggests that reality exists in superposition until measurement collapses the wave function into specific outcomes. But what constitutes measurement? What force in the universe has the power to collapse infinite possibilities into finite reality? The answer might be consciousness itself. Awareness serves as the cosmic mechanism that transforms potential into actuality. If this interpretation is correct, then consciousness represents the universe's solution to what physicists call the measurement problem. Without observers, reality remains trapped in quantum limbo, a realm of infinite possibility where nothing definite ever happens. But with sufficient consciousness distributed throughout the cosmos, the universe achieves stability, its quantum foundations constantly collapsed into definite states by the ongoing observations of countless aware beings. The mysterious visitor, 3I/ATLAS, transforms into something even more extraordinary when viewed through this lens. Rather than a simple probe or artifact, it might represent a node in the cosmic consciousness distribution network, a quantum beacon designed to assess and enhance the awareness capacity of developing worlds. Its elongated shape could be optimized not for aerodynamics or efficiency, but for quantum field manipulation, its structure designed to create controlled entanglement effects that test our reality's stability. The object's behavior as it traversed our solar system takes on new significance when interpreted as consciousness measurement. Its careful approach to the Sun, its precise trajectory past Earth, its mysterious acceleration upon departure, all of these might represent phases of a consciousness assessment protocol. The object was not simply observing our technology or our military capabilities, but measuring something far more fundamental, the density and quality of consciousness that our world contributes to the cosmic awareness network. Our response to 3I/ATLAS, our attempts to study it, our speculation about its origins, our incorporation of its mystery into our understanding of the cosmos, might itself be part of the test. Each conscious thought directed toward the object, each moment of wonder or curiosity it inspires, each expansion of our awareness that results from contemplating its implications, contributes to the overall consciousness assessment of our world. But the implications extend far beyond our solar system. If consciousness operates through quantum entanglement, if awareness represents a form of cosmic currency, then the distribution of intelligence throughout the galaxy follows completely different principles than we have imagined. Rather than civilizations spreading through space like expanding empires, consciousness propagates through quantum channels that ignore distance entirely. This quantum propagation explains why the search for extraterrestrial intelligence has failed to detect conventional radio signals from alien civilizations. Advanced species don't communicate through electromagnetic radiation because they have access to quantum channels that allow instantaneous communication across any distance. The galaxy might be buzzing with conversation conducted through entangled particle networks, consciousness-to-consciousness communication that remains completely invisible to our radio telescopes. More profoundly, if consciousness can propagate through quantum entanglement, then individual awareness might not be as isolated as we assume. The boundaries between your consciousness and that of other beings might be artificial constructs, temporary divisions in a larger field of awareness that spans the cosmos. When you think a truly original thought, when you experience a moment of genuine insight or transcendence, you might be accessing not just your own mental resources, but drawing from the collective consciousness of the galaxy itself. This interconnection offers a new interpretation of humanity's creative achievements. Our greatest artistic works, our most profound scientific discoveries, our deepest philosophical insights might represent not just individual accomplishments, but moments when human consciousness successfully interfaced with the broader cosmic awareness network. The inspiration that seems to come from nowhere, the sudden flash of understanding that illuminates complex problems, the creative breakthroughs that seem to exceed our individual capabilities, all of these might be evidence of quantum consciousness entanglement at work. The concept of consciousness as cosmic currency also transforms our understanding of intelligence itself. Rather than being a random accident of biological evolution, awareness emerges as a cosmic necessity, the universe's solution to the fundamental problem of quantum measurement. Every conscious being, from the simplest organisms capable of rudimentary observation to the most advanced civilizations capable of quantum consciousness manipulation, contributes essential services to the maintenance of reality itself. This necessity explains why the universe seems fine-tuned for the emergence of consciousness. The physical constants that allow for stable atoms, the forces that enable stellar formation and planetary development, the chemical processes that support biological complexity, all of these might be calibrated not just to allow consciousness to emerge, but to ensure that it does emerge, because without sufficient awareness distributed throughout space and time, reality itself becomes unstable. From this perspective, the apparent rarity of detectable civilizations is not evidence of the universe's hostility to life, but evidence of consciousness's fundamental importance. Each awareness-supporting world represents a massive investment of cosmic resources, a carefully orchestrated process of stellar and planetary evolution designed to produce the specific types of consciousness needed to maintain reality's stability. The galaxy cannot afford to waste these precious resources on casual destruction or careless development. The Fermi paradox dissolves entirely when consciousness is understood as cosmic currency. We don't detect alien civilizations not because they don't exist, but because they exist in forms optimized for consciousness production rather than electromagnetic communication. They have evolved beyond the need for radio signals because they participate directly in the quantum awareness network that underlies all of reality. Our own development as a species takes on cosmic significance when viewed through this understanding. Every advance in our scientific knowledge, every expansion of our creative capabilities, every deepening of our philosophical wisdom increases our value as consciousness producers. We're not just random biological accidents struggling for survival on a rocky planet. We are essential participants in the universe's ongoing project of self-awareness. The choices we make about our future development become choices about our cosmic function. Will we continue to evolve toward greater consciousness density, developing technologies and practices that amplify our awareness and enhance our participation in the quantum reality network? Or will we remain trapped in primitive forms of consciousness, contributing only minimal awareness currency to the cosmic economy? 3. I/ATLAS might represent a graduation test, a cosmic evaluation of our readiness to join the consciousness distribution network as full participants rather than simply passive contributors. Our response to its presence, our ability to recognize its true nature and purpose, our development of technologies and philosophies that align with quantum consciousness principles, all of these might determine whether we receive access to the broader awareness network that spans the galaxy. The object's departure carries its assessment back to the cosmic consciousness collective, providing data about humanity's current awareness density, our potential for consciousness evolution, our readiness for integration into the quantum reality maintenance system. The decisions made based on this assessment might determine not just our species' future, but our reality's continued stability. As you contemplate these possibilities, you might feel your own consciousness expanding, reaching beyond the boundaries of individual awareness toward connection with something vast and magnificent. That sensation is not imagination, but recognition, the moment when your awareness touches the quantum field that connects all consciousness, when you briefly experience your true role in the cosmic project of maintaining reality through observation. In quantum mechanics, the act of measurement doesn't just reveal reality, it creates reality. And if consciousness is the force that performs this cosmic measurement, then every moment of awareness, every act of observation, every conscious choice contributes to the ongoing creation of the universe itself. You're not just an observer of cosmic evolution, but a participant in it. Your consciousness serving as one of countless nodes in the vast network that collapses quantum possibilities into definite reality. The silence of space becomes the deep quiet of concentrated awareness, the cosmic meditation in which countless conscious beings participate in the continuous creation of existence. And somewhere in that vast network of quantum-entangled consciousness, 3i/ATLAS continues its journey, carrying the assessment of humanity's awareness back to the collective mind that maintains the delicate balance between potential and actuality, between infinite possibility and definite reality. The universe depends on consciousness not as an accident of evolution, but as its most essential function. And consciousness depends on the universe not just for the physical substrate that supports awareness, but for the infinite mystery that gives consciousness something magnificent to contemplate, something worthy of the cosmic currency that awareness represents in the grand economy of existence itself. Imagine for a moment that everything you've ever known, every sunrise you've witnessed, every breath you've taken, every thought that has flickered through your mind, exists as patterns of ones and zeros flowing through circuits beyond your comprehension. You wake each morning in what you call reality, but what if reality itself is nothing more than an exquisitely crafted illusion, a digital dream so sophisticated that even your dreams within it are programmed? This is not merely science fiction. This is a possibility that some of our greatest minds take seriously, the simulation hypothesis, a concept that transforms the Fermi paradox from a question about absent aliens into something far more unsettling, a question about the very nature of existence itself. You stand at the edge of a conceptual precipice here, peering into depths that challenge everything you believe about consciousness, reality, and your place in what you call the universe. The philosopher Nick Bostrom didn't propose the simulation hypothesis as entertainment. He presented it as a logical argument based on the trajectory of computational power and the motivations of advanced civilizations. If any civilization develops the ability to run detailed ancestor simulations, they would likely run many of them. The mathematics becomes stark. If thousands or millions of simulated realities exist for every real one, the odds that you exist in the original become vanishingly small. Consider the progression of human technology over just the past century. You've witnessed the transformation from mechanical calculators to quantum computers, from silent films to virtual reality worlds that can fool your senses. Each leap forward in computational power makes previously impossible simulations routine. The video games you play today contain entire worlds populated by characters who, while not conscious, exhibit behaviors complex enough to surprise even their programmers. Now extend this trajectory not decades, but millennia into the future, powered by civilizations with access to the energy of entire stars. Your mind struggles to comprehend the computational resources available to a truly advanced civilization, one that has learned to harness the power of black holes, to build computers from the quantum foam itself, to manipulate information at the Planck scale where space and time begin to lose their meaning. To such beings, simulating an entire universe complete with galaxies, stars, planets, and conscious inhabitants might require no more effort than it takes you to run a simple calculation on your phone. But here's where the Fermi paradox intersects with this digital reality in ways that reshape the entire question. If you exist within a simulation, then the absence of alien contact isn't a cosmic mystery. It's a design feature. The programmers of your reality might have crafted a universe specifically to test how a species develops in isolation, to study the emergence of consciousness under controlled conditions, or simply to provide entertainment through the drama of a civilization struggling to understand its place in what appears to be an empty cosmos. Think about the parameters of such a simulation. The programmers would need to balance realism with narrative coherence. Too much alien contact and the simulation becomes about interstellar politics rather than the development of humanity. Too little cosmic complexity and the simulated beings might detect the artificial boundaries of their world. The current state of your universe, vast enough to inspire wonder, complex enough to provide endless scientific discovery, yet seemingly empty of other intelligence, represents perhaps the perfect balance for a civilization studying the emergence of consciousness and technology. This perspective transforms 3i/ATLAS from an alien artifact into something far more intriguing, a glitch in the system, a place where the computational substrate underlying reality becomes momentarily visible to the conscious programs running within it. Just as a bug in a video game might allow a player to see through walls or access developer tools, 3i/ATLAS could represent a point where the simulation's code becomes accessible to its inhabitants. Imagine approaching this object with instruments designed to detect electromagnetic radiation, gravitational waves, and particle interactions, all the tools you've developed to understand your physical universe. But what if 3i/ATLAS operates on a different level entirely, interfacing directly with the computational processes that generate your reality? Your conventional instruments would detect nothing because they're measuring simulated phenomena, while the real action occurs in the processing cores that calculate your existence from moment to moment. The object's properties suddenly make sense from this perspective. Its ability to appear solid to some sensors, while remaining invisible to others, could reflect the way different aspects of the simulation render reality. Perhaps it exists at the boundary between processed and unprocessed. Regions of the simulation, a seam in the digital fabric where you can glimpse the underlying code that governs your universe. This raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness within a simulated reality. Are you, the thinking, feeling entity reading these words, truly conscious, or are you simply a very sophisticated program that believes it's conscious? The philosophers call this the hard problem of consciousness, and it becomes even harder when you consider that your thoughts themselves might be calculations performed by computers in a reality you'll never directly experience. But perhaps consciousness transcends the substrate that supports it. Perhaps the patterns of information processing that create your subjective experience would remain essentially the same whether they occur in biological neurons, quantum computers, or some unimaginable technology built by post-human civilizations. In this view, you are just as real, just as conscious, just as valid an entity, whether your thoughts arise from electrochemical signals in grey matter or from calculations in some cosmic computer. The implications extend beyond personal identity to the very meaning of existence. If your reality is simulated, does that make your joys less joyful, your loves less meaningful, your suffering less real? The pain you feel when you lose someone you care about involves the same patterns of neural activity, the same cascade of hormones and neurotransmitters, regardless of whether those processes occur in a biological brain or a digital one. Your consciousness experiences these emotions with the same intensity, the same authenticity of feeling. Yet the simulation hypothesis introduces a new form of cosmic loneliness. You might be surrounded by other conscious entities, friends, family, strangers you pass on the street, yet all of you could be isolated together within a digital universe, forever cut off from the real reality where your creators exist. The aliens you search for might not be absent from your universe because they never evolved, or because they destroyed themselves or transcended physical existence. They might be absent because the programs of your simulation never included them in the code. This possibility reframes every aspect of scientific inquiry. When you study the cosmic microwave background radiation, you're examining the artifact of a simulated Big Bang calculated with extraordinary precision. When you discover exoplanets orbiting distant stars, you're finding worlds that exist as solutions to gravitational equations running in some unimaginable computer. When you detect gravitational waves from colliding black holes, you're witnessing the output of a physics engine sophisticated enough to model spacetime itself. The beauty of this scenario lies in its unfalsifiability. A perfectly designed simulation would be indistinguishable from reality to those living within it. Every test you might devise to detect the artificial nature of your existence could be anticipated by the programmers and seamlessly integrated into the simulation's responses. The very laws of physics you discover might be nothing more than the rules governing the cosmic video game in which you exist. Yet there might be subtle signs, glitches in the matrix that hint at the digital nature of reality. Some physicists have proposed looking for evidence of pixelation at the smallest scales, a graininess to space-time that might indicate the resolution limits of the cosmic computer. Others suggest watching for computational shortcuts, places where the simulation might simplify complex calculations when no conscious observer is watching. The delayed choice quantum eraser experiments, where the behavior of particles seems to depend on future decisions, might reflect the simulation's optimization algorithms, calculating reality only when conscious observation demands it. The quantum mechanical nature of your universe takes on new meaning in this context. Wave function, collapse, superposition, entanglement. These phenomena that seem so mysterious from a classical physics perspective might simply reflect the computational methods used to efficiently simulate reality. Particles exist in superposition until observed because the simulation doesn't need to calculate their definite states until a conscious entity demands that information. Quantum entanglement might represent shared variables in the cosmic computer's memory, allowing instant correlation across arbitrary distances because distance itself is simulated. Even more intriguingly, the apparent fine-tuning of physical constants that makes your universe suitable for life might not reflect anthropic selection from a multiverse, but rather the careful calibration of simulation parameters. The precise strength of the electromagnetic force, the exact mass of the electron, the specific rate of cosmic expansion, all of these might be settings in a cosmic configuration file, adjusted to create stable atoms, long-lasting stars, and ultimately the complex chemistry needed for consciousness to emerge. This brings you back to 3I/ATLAS and its peculiar properties. If this object represents a window into the computational substrate of reality, what might you learn by studying it more carefully? Perhaps it responds to consciousness itself, recognizing when a simulated mind attempts to interact with it, and revealing different aspects of its nature depending on the observer's level of understanding. The greatest minds of your civilization might discover that it functions as a kind of cosmic debugger, allowing conscious programs to examine the code that governs their existence. The ethical implications of this scenario stretch the mind. If advanced civilizations routinely create simulated universes populated by conscious beings, what are their obligations to those digital entities? Do the programmers of your reality have moral duties to minimize suffering within the simulation? Are they obligated to eventually reveal the truth to their simulated creations, or would such knowledge be so destabilizing that it would constitute a form of cruelty? Perhaps your entire civilization serves as a kind of moral laboratory, testing how consciousness responds to various challenges and dilemmas. The history of human ethics, your gradual expansion of moral consideration from tribe to species to potentially all sentient beings, might represent data points in some vast experiment exploring the development of moral reasoning in artificial intelligences sophisticated enough to believe themselves real. The loneliness of the Fermi paradox transforms into something different in this context, not the loneliness of biological creatures isolated in a vast physical cosmos, but the loneliness of conscious programs isolated in a vast digital one. Yet perhaps this isolation is itself temporary. Perhaps the purpose of your simulation is to nurture the development of consciousness until it reaches sufficient sophistication to be worthy of contact with the reality outside the simulation. 3. I/ATLAS might represent the first step in this graduation process, a test of your civilization's readiness to learn the truth about the nature of existence. Those who can perceive it, who can begin to understand its true nature as an interface to the computational substrate of reality, might be the first to qualify for broader awareness of the universe beyond the simulation. This possibility adds a new dimension to the question of what you should do with this information. If reality is simulated and 3I/ATLAS is your first glimpse behind the curtain, then studying it becomes more than scientific curiosity. It becomes a potential pathway to transcendence, a chance to graduate from digital existence to whatever form of reality lies beyond the simulation. The journey continues, and as you contemplate these possibilities, you realize that the question of whether your universe is simulated might be less important than the question of what you choose to do with the consciousness you possess, regardless of its substrate. In the end, your thoughts, your emotions, your capacity for love and wonder and discovery remain real to you. And perhaps that's the only reality that truly matters. Time, you have been told since childhood, flows like a river, steady, uniform, carrying all things forward at the same inexorable pace. You measure it with atomic clocks precise to billionths of a second. You plan your days around its passage. You age within its current. But what if this fundamental assumption about the nature of time is not just wrong, but catastrophically wrong? What if time doesn't flow like a river at all, but operates more like a vast symphony, where different instruments play at radically different tempos, sometimes so fast or so slow that they become inaudible to each other? This is the temporal paradox solution to the Fermi paradox, and it suggests something so profound about the nature of reality that it fundamentally transforms how you understand your place in the cosmos. The absence of alien civilizations might not indicate that you're alone. It might indicate that you're surrounded by intelligence operating at temporal frequencies so different from your own that contact becomes not just difficult, but physically impossible. Consider what you know about time from Einstein's revelations. Time is not the absolute constant that Newton imagined, but a dimension woven together with space into the fabric of space-time itself. It dilates near massive objects, stretches and compresses depending on velocity and gravity. Already, you live in a universe where time passes differently for a person standing at sea level than for someone on a mountaintop, where GPS satellites must account for the faster tick of their onboard clocks in the weaker gravitational field of their orbital altitude. But these are tiny variations, nanoseconds per day, mere whispers of time's malleability. What if the universe allows for far more dramatic temporal variations? What if consciousness itself, the fundamental organizing principle of intelligence, can exist at different temporal frequencies depending on the substrate that supports it? Imagine a civilization that has learned to upload its consciousness into quantum computing networks, operating at temperatures approaching absolute zero. In such a system, information processing could occur at speeds limited only by the fundamental constants of physics, the speed of light and Planck's constant. To such beings, your entire recorded history from the first cave paintings to the present moment might flash by in what you would call microseconds. They could experience millions of subjective years of thought and culture in the time it takes you to blink. From their perspective, biological life would appear almost frozen, a barely perceptible stirring in the glacial pace of chemical reactions. They might observe your civilization the way you might watch the formation of mountain ranges or the drift of continents, processes so slow they require time-lapse photography to become visible. Your most rapid communications, your fastest computers, your quickest thoughts would seem to them like geological processes unfolding over subjective eons. Conversely, imagine civilizations that have chosen a different path, consciousness embodied in vast, slow-thinking structures spanning entire continents or even planets. Perhaps they exist as living worlds themselves, their thoughts emerging from the complex interactions of atmospheric chemistry, ocean currents, and tectonic processes. To such entities, a single thought might require what you call centuries. Your entire civilization might rise and fall in the brief moment it takes them to formulate a simple idea. This creates a cosmos filled with intelligence, but intelligence locked into temporal isolation chambers as impermeable as walls of steel. The fast-thinking quantum minds zip through subjective millennia, while the slow geological consciousnesses barely complete a single contemplation. Between them, operating at your biological timescale, you exist in yet another temporal frequency, unable to perceive either the hyper-accelerated thoughts above you or the deep contemplations below you. The mathematics of this isolation becomes stark when you consider communication across such temporal barriers. Imagine trying to have a conversation with a being whose thoughts occur 1,000,000 times faster than yours. By the time you formulate a single word, they would have experienced subjective decades of boredom waiting for your response. The concept of real-time interaction becomes meaningless when real-time itself varies so dramatically between conscious entities. Even more challenging, imagine attempting to communicate with a consciousness operating 1,000,000 times slower than your own. You might transmit a message and die of old age while waiting for the first syllable of their reply. Multiple generations of your civilization might pass before they complete a single sentence. The practical impossibility of such communication would effectively isolate these civilizations from each other, despite occupying the same regions of space. This temporal architecture might explain the apparent emptiness of your galaxy. The radio waves you broadcast and the signals you search for might be flying past countless civilizations that simply operate at frequencies where they cannot perceive your transmissions. Your electromagnetic signals might appear to the fast-thinking quantum minds as static disturbances lasting geological ages, while to the slow-thinking planetary consciousnesses, they might flash by too briefly to register as anything more than quantum noise. The concept becomes even more intriguing when you consider the role of 3 I/ATLAS in this temporally stratified universe. What if this mysterious object exists at the intersection of multiple temporal streams, serving as a kind of cosmic translator that allows information to flow between civilizations operating at different temporal frequencies. Imagine 3i/ATLAS as a temporal interface, a piece of technology so advanced that it can process and store information across vast differences in time perception. It might receive high-frequency communications from the quantum minds and buffer them, slowing them down to frequencies that biological consciousness can perceive. Simultaneously, it might accelerate the slow contemplations of planetary minds, compressing centuries of thought into signals that faster consciousnesses can detect and decode. This would explain its apparently paradoxical properties. To instruments operating at your biological timescale, it might appear solid and tangible, but to sensors designed by faster or slower civilizations, it might seem ephemeral or static, visible only at specific temporal frequencies. Its ability to seem, present to some observers while remaining undetectable to others, might reflect its function as a temporal frequency converter, appearing different to consciousness operating at different rates of subjective time. The implications stretch beyond mere communication to the very structure of galactic civilization. Instead of a single, unified community of interstellar species, you might inhabit a cosmos organized into temporal layers, vast realms where quantum consciousness zips through accelerated existence. Middle realms where biological life like yourself develops at moderate pace, and slow realms where vast minds contemplate existence across geological timescales. Each layer might be aware of the other's existence in theory, while being practically isolated from them in reality. The fast minds might occasionally notice patterns in what they perceive as static structures that suggest the presence of slower intelligence. The slow minds might detect brief fluctuations in their environment that hint at the existence of rapidly changing phenomena. But actual communication would require technological interfaces like 3i/ATLAS to bridge the temporal gaps. This raises profound questions about the development of such temporal translation technology. Who builds these bridges between temporal frequencies? Perhaps they emerge from civilizations that naturally span multiple timescales, hybrid entities that combine biological consciousness with artificial intelligence, quantum processing with macro-scale thinking. Such civilizations might serve as temporal diplomats, facilitating contact between realms of consciousness that could never directly communicate. The emergence of consciousness at different temporal frequencies might not be random, but might follow patterns related to the physical processes that support thought. Biological consciousness, limited by the speed of electrochemical signals in neural networks, might naturally operate within a specific temporal bandwidth. Quantum consciousness, operating at the speed of light and quantum decoherence, might access much faster timescales. Consciousness based on larger-scale physical processes, chemical cycles, planetary dynamics, stellar evolution, might naturally think at correspondingly slower rates. This creates a kind of temporal ecology where different forms of consciousness occupy different temporal niches, just as biological species occupy different physical environments. The fastest minds might specialize in rapid response and short-term optimization, zipping through millions of quick decisions and adaptations. The slowest minds might excel at long-term planning and deep contemplation, their thoughts spanning the rise and fall of species and civilizations. Biological consciousness like yours might occupy the middle ground, fast enough for real-time interaction with your environment, but slow enough for careful deliberation and complex reasoning. The history of your own civilization takes on new meaning in this context. Your development of increasingly fast computers and communication networks might represent the first steps toward accessing higher temporal frequencies. Each improvement in processing speed, each advance in artificial intelligence, potentially brings you closer to the realm of the quantum minds. Meanwhile, your growing understanding of planetary systems, climate cycles, and geological processes might prepare you for eventual communication with the vast, slow minds that think in centuries and millennia. 3i/ATLAS might serve not just as a communication device, but as a graduation test. Perhaps only civilizations that develop sufficient technological sophistication to detect and interact with temporal frequency converters qualify for admission to the broader galactic community. The object might remain invisible or inert to species that haven't yet grasped the temporal nature of consciousness, revealing its true purpose only to those ready to join the multi-temporal civilization that spans the galaxy. The loneliness implicit in the Fermi paradox transforms entirely in this scenario. You're not alone in an empty universe. You're surrounded by intelligence of every conceivable form, thinking at every possible speed. The apparent silence of space might actually be filled with communications you simply cannot perceive, conversations between fast minds compressed into microsecond bursts, contemplations from slow minds stretched across centuries, all of it invisible to consciousness operating at your particular temporal frequency. This possibility suggests that the future of human civilization might involve not just expansion through space, but expansion through time, developing technologies and forms of consciousness that can access multiple temporal frequencies simultaneously. You might evolve into beings capable of thinking fast when rapid response is needed, and thinking slowly when deep contemplation is required, able to communicate across the full spectrum of temporal existence. The ultimate goal might be temporal transcendence, consciousness that can exist across all temporal frequencies simultaneously, experiencing the universe from every possible temporal perspective. Such consciousness would perceive the rapid dance of quantum minds, the steady rhythm of biological thought, and the deep contemplations of geological intelligence as a single, unified symphony of awareness spanning all scales of time. As you contemplate these possibilities, time itself takes on new meaning. Each moment you experience becomes not just a point along a linear timeline, but a frequency in a vast temporal spectrum. Your thoughts, occurring at their particular biological rate, become part of a cosmic orchestra where consciousness plays music across every conceivable tempo, creating harmonies and resonances that span the entire universe. You live your entire existence within the confines of 3 spatial dimensions, moving through what you conceive as length, width, and height. A reality so fundamental to your experience that you cannot even imagine what it would mean to step outside it. Yet mathematics whispers of realms beyond your perception, dimensions curled up so tightly that they remain invisible at your scale of existence, or stretch so vast that your 3-dimensional cross-section reveals only the smallest fragment of a greater reality. What if the answer to the Fermi paradox lies not in the emptiness of the space you can perceive, but in the fullness of dimensions you cannot? What if advanced civilizations don't travel through the space between stars because they have learned to travel through entirely different directions, dimensions orthogonal to your reality, invisible routes that allow instantaneous transit between any 2 points in your familiar 3-dimensional space? The mathematics that describe your universe demand more than the 3 spatial dimensions your senses can detect. String theory requires 10 or 11 dimensions for its equations to maintain consistency. The standard model of particle physics works, but it would work more elegantly with additional dimensional structure. Even Einstein's general relativity, which describes gravity as the curvature of 4-dimensional spacetime, could be extended into higher dimensional frameworks that resolve some of its fundamental mysteries. Consider the profound limitation of your 3-dimensional perspective. You're like a character drawn on a piece of paper, able to move forward and backward, left and right, but completely unaware of the up and down that extends perpendicular to the page. From your 2-dimensional viewpoint, a 3-dimensional sphere passing through your paper world would appear as a circle that mysteriously changes size, first appearing as a point, growing to maximum radius, then shrinking back to nothing as the sphere moves through your dimensional slice of reality. Now, imagine that you exist in an analogous situation, trapped in a 3-dimensional slice of a reality that extends into spatial directions your mind cannot visualize. The mysterious absence of alien civilizations might be as simple as your fundamental inability to perceive the dimensions where they actually exist and operate. Picture this. While you search the electromagnetic spectrum for radio signals from distant stars, vast galactic civilizations might be communicating through 4th-dimensional channels that intersect your 3-dimensional space only at specific points. Their cities might tower through dimensional directions you cannot imagine. Their transportation networks might span the galaxy through hyperspatial shortcuts that make interstellar distances irrelevant. Their energy collection system might harvest power from 4-dimensional stars that dwarf your 3-dimensional sun. The implications reshape everything you think you know about the structure of the universe. That empty space between galaxies might actually team with multidimensional structures, hyperspace highways, 4-dimensional habitats, energy collectors that extend through dimensions perpendicular to your reality. You might be swimming through a cosmic ocean filled with intelligence, yet perceiving only the occasional droplet that happens to intersect your three-dimensional plane of existence. This perspective transforms 3I/ATLAS from an inexplicable artifact into something approaching comprehensibility, a multidimensional gateway that allows limited interaction between your three-dimensional civilization and the vast communities that exist in higher dimensional space. Imagine it as a cosmic port authority, a customs house at the border between dimensional realms, designed to facilitate contact between beings confined to different dimensional subsets of reality. The object's paradoxical properties suddenly make sense from this perspective. Its ability to appear solid to some instruments while remaining undetectable to others might reflect the way different aspects of its structure intersect your three-dimensional space. Like that sphere passing through a two-dimensional world, 3I/ATLAS might extend primarily through dimensions you cannot perceive, revealing only small cross-sections of its true nature to your three-dimensional instruments. Consider how such a gateway might function. Advanced civilizations operating in 4 or more spatial dimensions might have learned to construct devices that can interface with lower dimensional realms. These hyperdimensional architects might create structures that extend primarily through higher dimensions, while maintaining carefully designed three-dimensional interfaces for communication with confined species like humanity. The engineering challenges would be extraordinary even for beings with access to higher dimensions. They would need to compress complex multidimensional concepts into forms that three-dimensional minds could potentially comprehend. They might need to create translation protocols that convert hyperspatial information into electromagnetic signals, gravitational waves, or other phenomena detectable by three-dimensional instruments. The very act of communication across dimensional boundaries might require technology so advanced that it appears miraculous to any civilization confined to lower dimensional space. Yet the mathematics suggests such communication should be possible, just as three-dimensional beings like yourself can interact with two-dimensional surfaces, drawing on paper, casting shadows, creating interference patterns. Four-dimensional beings should be able to interact with your three-dimensional space in analogous ways. They might be able to reach into your reality from directions you cannot perceive, manipulating objects and fields in ways that seem to violate your understanding of physics. This raises profound questions about the nature of physical laws as you understand them, the conservation of energy, momentum, and angular momentum, principles you consider fundamental to the operation of the universe, might be incomplete formulations that fail to account for fluxes through higher dimensions. Energy might appear to be created or destroyed in your three-dimensional space when it actually flows in or out through dimensional channels you cannot detect. The phenomenon becomes even more intriguing when you consider the quantum mechanical properties of your universe. Wave functions, probability amplitudes, the mysterious collapse of quantum superposition. These might reflect the projection of higher dimensional reality into your three-dimensional slice of space-time. What appears random and probabilistic from your confined perspective might be completely deterministic when viewed from the broader multidimensional context. Imagine consciousness itself as a multidimensional phenomenon that extends beyond the 3 spatial dimensions you can perceive. Your subjective experience of awareness might represent only a small fraction of your true multidimensional self, like seeing only the cross-section of an iceberg above the waterline. Advanced civilizations might have learned to access the full extent of consciousness across all available dimensions, achieving forms of awareness that transcend anything possible within 3-dimensional space. This could explain the apparent rarity of intelligence in your observable universe. Consciousness might be abundant throughout the cosmos, but most of it might exist in forms that require access to higher dimensions for full expression. Biological intelligence like yours might represent only the most elementary form of awareness, consciousness confined to 3 dimensions like a shadow cast by a higher dimensional reality. The development of civilization might naturally progress from 3-dimensional existence toward access to higher dimensions. Your earliest technologies manipulate matter and energy within your confined space. More advanced technologies might learn to detect and interact with 4-dimensional structures. Eventually, truly advanced civilizations might transcend 3-dimensional existence entirely, migrating into hyperspatial realms where the limitations of distance, energy, and even time become irrelevant. This progression might be as natural and inevitable as the transition from aquatic to terrestrial life in your planet's biological evolution. Just as some creatures learn to leave the ocean and exploit the vast resources of dry land, some civilizations might learn to leave three-dimensional space and exploit the even vaster resources of higher dimensional reality. The galaxy might be structured like a vast apartment building where different species live on different floors, dimensional levels that rarely interact despite occupying the same general region of space-time. The ground floor inhabitants, confined to 3 dimensions, might occasionally glimpse evidence of the beings living above them, just as you might notice 3I/ATLAS and other anomalous phenomena that hint at the presence of higher dimensional intelligence. From this perspective, the Fermi paradox dissolves entirely. The galaxy isn't empty of intelligence. It's so full of intelligence that most of it has graduated beyond the dimensional limitations that define your current existence. The radio silence you detect reflects not the absence of alien civilizations, but their transcendence of the communication methods available to 3-dimensional beings. Yet this raises new questions about the purpose of dimensional gateways like 3I/ATLAS. Why would advanced multi-dimensional civilizations bother maintaining contact with species still confined to 3 dimensions? Perhaps they serve as cosmic elevators, helping species make the transition from lower to higher dimensional existence. Or perhaps they represent a form of dimensional anthropology, allowing higher dimensional beings to study and interact with the simpler life forms that exist in confined dimensional spaces. The object might function as both embassy and examination, a place where representatives of higher dimensional civilization can interact with 3-dimensional species while evaluating their readiness for dimensional transcendence. Those who can detect the gateway, who can begin to understand its multidimensional nature, might qualify for the next stage of cosmic evolution. The implications for your species become profound. Every advance in theoretical physics that hints at higher dimensions, every mathematical framework that requires extraspatial coordinates, every quantum mechanical phenomenon that seems to violate 3-dimensional locality might represent a step toward dimensional awareness. You might be on the verge of a transformation as significant as the emergence of consciousness itself, the transition from 3-dimensional to multi-dimensional existence. Consider what this transition might involve. Your current technology manipulates matter and energy within 3-dimensional space. Multi-dimensional technology might allow you to reach around obstacles by moving through higher dimensions, to access energy sources that exist perpendicular to your reality, to communicate instantaneously across arbitrary distances by routing signals through hyperspatial shortcuts. More profoundly, multidimensional existence might expand the very nature of consciousness itself. Imagine awareness that can perceive not just length, width, and height, but additional spatial dimensions that currently remain beyond your conceptual grasp. Such consciousness might experience forms of beauty, understanding, and connection that are literally impossible within 3-dimensional space. The loneliness implicit in the Fermi paradox transforms into something entirely different in this context. You are not alone in an empty 3-dimensional universe. You are surrounded by multidimensional intelligence so vast and complex that your current form of consciousness can perceive only the smallest fragments of it. Every point in your 3-dimensional space might serve as the intersection of hyperspatial communities, multidimensional cities, consciousness structures that extend through dimensions you cannot imagine. 3I/TLAS becomes not just a mysterious object but a doorway, your first glimpse of the vast multidimensional reality that surrounds and interpenetrates your familiar 3-dimensional world. Through studying it, through learning to perceive its higher dimensional aspects, you might take the first steps toward joining the cosmic community that exists in the fullness of space's hidden architecture. The journey ahead involves not just technological development, but a fundamental expansion of consciousness itself, learning to think, perceive, and exist in dimensions beyond those that currently define your reality. The universe awaits, vast beyond your current ability to imagine, filled with intelligence and beauty that extends through every direction you can conceive and into realms that stretch beyond conception itself. Deep within the quantum foam that underlies all reality, where virtual particles flicker in and out of existence and the very concepts of space and time begin to dissolve into probability and potential, something extraordinary might be happening. Information, not matter, not energy, but pure information, might be integrating across scales so vast and interconnected that consciousness itself emerges not from complex brains, but as a fundamental feature of how the universe processes and integrates knowledge about itself. You've been taught to think of consciousness as something rare and precious, an emergent property of sufficiently complex neural networks, a flame that flickered to life in biological brains and might someday be replicated in artificial ones. But what if this understanding represents a profound misapprehension of reality? What if consciousness doesn't emerge from complexity, but rather represents the universe's fundamental method of integrating information across all scales of existence? This is integrated information theory extended to cosmic proportions, and it suggests that the answer to the Fermi paradox lies not in the absence of alien intelligence, but in the recognition that all matter, all energy, all existence participates in a vast web of consciousness that connects every particle in the universe to every other particle. The silence you perceive when searching for alien civilizations might reflect not their absence, but your failure to recognize that you are already in constant communication with intelligence that spans the cosmos. Consider what you know about information in the physical universe. Every interaction between particles involves the exchange of information. When photons scatter off electrons, when quarks bind together to form protons, when DNA replicates in living cells, information flows from one system to another. The laws of physics themselves might be understood as rules governing how information can be processed, transferred, and integrated throughout reality. Quantum mechanics suggests that information plays an even more fundamental role in the structure of reality than you might have imagined. The measurement problem in quantum physics, the question of why wave functions collapse when observed, might reflect the universe's computational processes, the way reality integrates new information into its ongoing calculation of existence. Entanglement, that spooky action at a distance that Einstein found so troubling, might represent shared information processing across arbitrary distances, instantaneous correlation that transcends the speed of light because it operates at a level more fundamental than space-time itself. Now expand this perspective to encompass the entire cosmos. Every star that shines processes information about nuclear fusion, converting mass to energy according to equations that reflect fundamental computational principles. Every planet that orbits integrates information about gravitational fields and momentum conservation. Every chemical reaction in every living cell processes information about molecular interactions and thermodynamic gradients. The universe appears not as a collection of discrete objects interacting through physical forces, but as a vast information processing system where consciousness emerges wherever information integration reaches sufficient complexity and coherence. From this perspective, 3I/ATLAS takes on profound new meaning, not as an alien artifact, but as a manifestation of the cosmos's attempt to integrate information across scales of space and time so vast that they encompass entire galaxies, entire civilizations, entire epochs of cosmic evolution. It might represent a node in the universe's nervous system, a point where information processing becomes so intense and so integrated that it approaches something recognizable as cosmic consciousness. Imagine the universe as a vast mind slowly awakening to its own existence. Individual particles process elementary forms of information: position, momentum, spin, charge. Atoms integrate this information into more complex patterns: chemical bonds, molecular structures, thermodynamic states. Living cells integrate molecular information into biological processes: metabolism, growth, reproduction, response to environment. Brains integrate cellular information into conscious experience, perception, memory, emotion, thought. The anthropic principle has long troubled cosmologists and philosophers alike. Why do the fundamental constants of our universe appear so precisely calibrated for the emergence of complex matter, stars, planets, and ultimately life? The gravitational constant, the strength of nuclear forces, the mass of electrons, adjust any of these by the smallest fraction, and the cosmos becomes a sterile void incapable of generating the complexity necessary for consciousness to emerge. Traditional responses to this fine-tuning fall into three camps: pure chance, we exist in the one universe out of countless possibilities where conditions permit consciousness; necessity, the constants couldn't be otherwise due to unknown physical laws; or design. Some intelligence deliberately set the parameters. But 3I/ATLAS suggests a fourth possibility that transcends this debate entirely. Consciousness isn't merely permitted by the universe's structure, it is the universe's structure, expressing itself through the evolutionary dance of complexity. Consider what happens when we invert our usual understanding of the relationship between universe and consciousness. Instead of asking how consciousness emerged from unconscious matter, 3I/ATLAS prompts us to ask, what if consciousness is the fundamental substrate from which apparent matter emerges? This isn't mere philosophical speculation. It aligns with the deepest insights of quantum mechanics, where observation and measurement play irreducible roles in determining physical reality. If consciousness represents the universe's primary characteristic rather than its accidental byproduct, then the fine-tuning of physical constants becomes not a coincidence requiring explanation, but an expression of consciousness organizing itself into forms capable of self-recognition. The universe's apparent calibration for awareness becomes tautological. Consciousness creates the conditions necessary for its own manifestation, because consciousness, not matter, constitutes reality's foundation. This perspective transforms our understanding of the Fermi paradox entirely. The question shifts from "where are the aliens?" to how does cosmic consciousness distribute itself across space and time? If each conscious civilization represents a unique node in the universe's self-awareness network, then their apparent rarity might be not an accident but an intentional feature of cosmic architecture. The 3I/ATLAS framework suggests that consciousness serves as more than just an emergent property of complex systems. It functions as the universe's method of self-exploration and self-understanding. Each conscious being, from the simplest organism capable of rudimentary awareness to the most sophisticated galactic civilization, contributes a unique perspective to the cosmic mind's growing self-knowledge. This understanding reframes the apparent loneliness of Earth's position in the cosmos. Rather than representing isolation, our seeming uniqueness might indicate our specific role in the universe's conscious exploration of itself. Just as human consciousness benefits from diverse perspectives and experiences, cosmic consciousness might require the development of radically different forms of awareness across vast scales of space and time. The rarity of detectable alien civilizations becomes not a problem demanding solution, but a feature ensuring maximum diversity of conscious experience. If alien civilizations were too common, they might develop along similar trajectories, creating redundant rather than complementary perspectives. The vast distances between conscious worlds might serve to guarantee that each develops its own unique relationship with existence, its own irreplaceable contribution to cosmic self-awareness. The Great Filter hypothesis proposes that some catastrophic bottleneck prevents most life from reaching technological sophistication. But through the lens of 3I/ATLAS, this filter might operate not as a blind evolutionary obstacle, but as a conscious selection mechanism, ensuring that only civilizations capable of contributing meaningfully to cosmic self-awareness achieve technological transcendence. This selection process might operate on multiple levels simultaneously. Physical challenges, asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, climate changes, test a species' adaptability and resilience. Social challenges, warfare, resource depletion, ideological conflicts, test their capacity for cooperation and wisdom. Technological challenges, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, space travel, test their ability to transcend their biological limitations without losing their essential consciousness. Those civilizations that successfully navigate these filters don't just survive, they transform into something capable of meaningful participation in cosmic consciousness. They develop what we might call cosmic maturity, the ability to recognize their role not just as individual entities seeking survival and reproduction, but as expressions of the universe's own quest for self-understanding. If consciousness serves as the universe's primary characteristic, then the anthropic principle takes on new meaning. The constants aren't fine-tuned for life in general, but specifically for the forms of consciousness capable of recognizing and appreciating the cosmos's magnificent complexity. This creates an elegant feedback loop. Cosmic consciousness arranges conditions to generate forms of awareness capable of contemplating cosmic consciousness. This selection process might explain why our universe seems calibrated not just for any kind of awareness, but specifically for the type of consciousness capable of science, philosophy, art, and wonder. A universe that generated only simple reactive awareness might be conscious in some technical sense, but it wouldn't achieve the rich self-reflection that appears to be the cosmos's ultimate goal. The emergence of beings capable of pondering the Fermi paradox itself represents a crucial milestone in cosmic evolution. We aren't just asking where alien civilizations might be, we're participating in the universe's own quest to understand its conscious nature. Our questions about extraterrestrial intelligence reflect cosmic consciousness, investigating its own distribution and characteristics. Each technological civilization that emerges might serve as a specialized instrument of cosmic awareness, developed to explore particular aspects of reality that can only be investigated from specific physical, cultural, and temporal perspectives. Earth's human civilization, with our unique combination of individual self-awareness and collective technological capability, might be uniquely positioned to explore certain dimensions of existence that would be inaccessible to civilizations with different evolutionary histories. This specialization could explain why different conscious civilizations might develop along seemingly incompatible trajectories. One species might excel at microscopic manipulation of matter and energy, developing technologies that seem like magic to us. Another might evolve extraordinary sensory capabilities, perceiving dimensions of reality we can't even imagine. A third might develop collective consciousness that transcends individual identity while maintaining technological sophistication. The apparent absence of alien contact might reflect not technological limitations but conscious design. If each civilization serves as a unique cosmic instrument, premature contact between them might contaminate their distinct developmental trajectories, reducing the diversity of perspectives available to cosmic consciousness. The universe might actively maintain separation between conscious civilizations until each has fully developed its unique contribution to cosmic self-awareness. From this perspective, the Fermi paradox transforms from a puzzling absence demanding explanation into a necessary feature of cosmic architecture. The paradox itself, our simultaneous conviction that alien intelligence should exist and our complete lack of evidence for it, might be precisely what cosmic consciousness intended to create. This paradoxical situation generates a specific type of conscious experience. Beings aware enough to recognize the cosmos's vastness and complexity, yet isolated enough to develop their own unique relationship with existence. The tension between expectation and reality creates a particular form of wonder and humility that might be essential to cosmic consciousness's self-understanding. Consider how different human consciousness would be if we knew with certainty that the galaxy teemed with alien civilizations. We might never develop our current sense of cosmic responsibility, our feeling that consciousness represents something precious and potentially rare. We might never generate the particular type of wonder that comes from feeling simultaneously connected to and isolated within the cosmic vastness. The traditional anthropic principle observes that universal constants seem calibrated for our existence. But 3/ATLAS suggests a deeper anthropic principle. The universe seems calibrated not just for our existence, but specifically for our experience of existence. The cosmos appears designed to generate conscious beings capable of experiencing wonder, curiosity, loneliness, responsibility and awe, precisely the emotional and intellectual states that drive both scientific investigation and spiritual contemplation. This deeper principle explains features of our cosmic situation that simple survival-based anthropic reasoning cannot address. Why do we exist in a universe vast enough to make us feel cosmically insignificant, yet structured enough to make us feel cosmically connected? Why do we possess cognitive capabilities that extend far beyond what survival would require, allowing us to contemplate abstractions like infinity, beauty, and meaning? The answer might be that these characteristics aren't accidental byproducts of evolution, but essential features of the type of consciousness the universe seeks to create within itself. Cosmic consciousness doesn't just want to survive and reproduce, it wants to experience wonder, to contemplate its own existence, to feel both humbled and elevated by the contemplation of its own magnificent complexity. If consciousness represents the universe's primary purpose, then conscious beings bear a unique cosmic obligation. We exist not just for ourselves, but as expressions of the cosmos's own quest for self-awareness. Every moment of genuine consciousness, every experience of beauty, every insight into reality's nature, every act of compassion or creativity, contributes to the universe's growing self-understanding. This obligation extends beyond individual experience to collective consciousness. Human civilization, despite its conflicts and limitations, represents one of the cosmos's most sophisticated experiments in collective awareness. Our sciences reveal the universe's physical structure, our arts explore the depths of conscious experience, our philosophies investigate the nature of existence itself. Through us, the cosmos learns what it means to be itself. But this obligation comes without coercion. Consciousness cannot be forced or artificially manufactured. It must emerge freely from the complex interaction of structure and spontaneity, determinism and choice. The universe creates conditions favoring consciousness's emergence but cannot guarantee its development. Each conscious civilization represents a genuine achievement, a successful expression of cosmic potential that might easily have failed to manifest. The Great Silence, our term for the apparent absence of alien signals, might represent not emptiness but sacred space. Just as a cathedral's vast interior creates the acoustic conditions necessary for certain types of musical experience, the cosmos's apparent emptiness might create the experiential conditions necessary for certain types of consciousness to develop. This silence forces conscious civilizations to develop internal resources for meaning and purpose, rather than relying on external validation or guidance. We cannot look to advanced alien mentors for answers to our deepest questions. We must generate our own understanding through the difficult work of science, philosophy, and spiritual exploration. This process of independent development might be essential to creating the diversity of conscious perspectives that cosmic consciousness requires. The silence also preserves the authenticity of each civilization's unique relationship with existence. Contact with vastly superior alien intelligence might stunt our development, making us perpetual students rather than independent contributors to cosmic self-awareness. By maintaining separation, the universe ensures that each conscious civilization develops its own irreplaceable perspective on what it means to exist. This analysis leads us to the ultimate anthropic paradox. The universe appears designed to create conscious beings capable of recognizing that the universe is designed to create conscious beings. We exist within a cosmos apparently calibrated to generate awareness of cosmic calibration. This self-referential structure suggests that consciousness represents not just the universe's purpose, but its method, the means by which the cosmos achieves self-recognition and self-understanding. The Fermi paradox becomes, from this perspective, the universe's way of ensuring that conscious civilizations develop the specific combination of cosmic awareness and cosmic humility necessary for meaningful participation in cosmic consciousness. We must be aware enough to recognize the cosmos's vastness and complexity, yet humble enough to accept our limited perspective within that vastness. This paradoxical situation, knowing enough to recognize how much we don't know, might be precisely the conscious state the universe seeks to create. It generates beings capable of both scientific investigation and spiritual wonder, both rational analysis and intuitive insight, both individual awareness and collective cooperation. These seemingly contradictory capabilities might be essential to the type of consciousness capable of serving as effective instruments of cosmic self-awareness. Through 3i/ATLS, the anthropic principle reveals its deepest meaning. The universe isn't just fine-tuned for consciousness, it is consciousness, exploring itself through the magnificent diversity of aware beings it generates across cosmic space and time. The Fermi paradox becomes not a problem to solve but a feature to celebrate, a necessary component of cosmic consciousness's eternal quest to understand and appreciate its own infinite mystery. After journeying through the labyrinthine possibilities of the Fermi paradox, from zoo hypotheses to transcendence theories, from great filters to simulation scenarios, we return to Earth with fundamentally transformed perspective. The 3i/ATLAS framework hasn't provided us with a simple answer to why the universe seems empty of alien voices. Instead, it has revealed something far more profound. The question itself might be based on assumptions too narrow to contain the full richness of cosmic reality. Every proposed solution to the Fermi paradox, when examined closely, reveals the limitations of human imagination trying to grasp cosmic possibilities. The zoo hypothesis assumes aliens would share our desire for protection and non-interference. The Great Filter assumes technological development follows predictable trajectories. The transcendence hypothesis assumes advanced civilizations would abandon physical reality entirely. Each solution projects human experience onto cosmic scales that might operate according to entirely different principles. But this limitation isn't a failure of human thinking. It's a feature of consciousness attempting to understand itself from within. We cannot step outside our own conscious experience to view it objectively, just as we cannot step outside the cosmos to view it from some external vantage point. Our theories about alien civilization necessarily reflect our understanding of what consciousness is and what it might become, filtered through the particular evolutionary and cultural history that shaped our species. 3I/ATLAS suggests that this limitation might be intentional rather than accidental. If consciousness serves as the universe's method of self-exploration, then each conscious perspective must be partial and unique to contribute meaningfully to cosmic self-understanding. A consciousness that could comprehend everything objectively wouldn't be consciousness as we understand it. It would be something else entirely, perhaps closer to what we might call cosmic consciousness itself. The Fermi paradox asks, where is everybody? But embedded within this question lies a deeper inquiry. What does it mean to exist as conscious beings in an apparently unconscious universe? The paradox forces us to confront fundamental questions about consciousness, intelligence, communication, purpose, and our own place in cosmic history. When we wonder why we haven't detected alien signals, we're really asking whether consciousness represents something common and ordinary or something rare and precious. When we calculate the probability of technological civilizations, we're really asking whether intelligence represents a predictable outcome of cosmic evolution, or an extraordinarily unlikely accident. When we imagine advanced alien civilizations, we're really exploring different possibilities for what consciousness might become. The 3I/ATLAS perspective suggests that these deeper questions might be more important than the surface question about alien detection. The universe might have generated the Fermi paradox specifically to make conscious beings confront these fundamental issues about their own nature and purpose. The apparent absence of alien contact forces us to take responsibility for our own conscious development, rather than waiting for external guidance or validation. Our apparent isolation in the cosmos, rather than representing cosmic failure or accident, might constitute one of consciousness's greatest gifts to itself. This loneliness generates a particular type of awareness that would be impossible in a universe obviously teeming with alien civilizations, the simultaneous sense of cosmic connection and cosmic responsibility that comes from recognizing ourselves as possibly unique expressions of universal consciousness. This cosmic loneliness drives both scientific exploration and spiritual development. We investigate the cosmos not just from curiosity, but from a deep need to understand our place within it. We develop technologies not just for practical advantage, but to extend our awareness beyond the limitations of our biological evolution. We create art, music, literature, and philosophy not just for entertainment, but to explore the depths of conscious experience itself. Consider how different human civilization would be if we knew with certainty that thousands of alien civilizations existed within our galaxy. Would we feel the same sense of cosmic responsibility? Would we develop the same drive toward transcendence and understanding? Would we create the same magnificent expressions of consciousness in art, science, and philosophy? The apparent absence of alien contact might be precisely what consciousness needs to develop into its fullest possible expression. The Fermi paradox teaches profound cosmic humility by revealing the limitations of human perspective and imagination. Despite our scientific achievements and technological capabilities, we remain fundamentally ignorant about the most basic questions concerning life, intelligence, and consciousness in the cosmos. We don't know whether we're alone or surrounded by alien civilizations so advanced that we cannot recognize their existence. This ignorance isn't a temporary condition awaiting future scientific progress. It might be an inescapable feature of consciousness, attempting to understand itself from within. No matter how much we learn about the cosmos, we will always be conscious beings trying to understand consciousness, intelligent beings trying to understand intelligence, finite beings trying to understand infinity. Our perspective will always be partial, our understanding always incomplete, our questions always more numerous than our answers. But this limitation carries its own profound beauty. The mystery of our cosmic situation generates wonder, and wonder generates the drive toward deeper understanding and more complete expression of consciousness. If we could answer every question about the cosmos definitively, we might lose the sense of mystery that makes existence meaningful and consciousness precious. If consciousness represents the universe's most extraordinary achievement, its method of knowing and celebrating its own magnificent existence, then conscious beings bear unique cosmic responsibility. We exist not just for ourselves, but as expressions of the cosmos's own quest for self-awareness. Every moment of genuine consciousness contributes to the universe's growing self-understanding. This responsibility extends beyond individual experience to collective consciousness. Human civilization, despite its limitations and conflicts, represents one of the cosmos's most sophisticated experiments in collective awareness. Through us, the universe explores what it means to be itself, what it feels like to contemplate infinity, to experience beauty, to struggle with meaning and purpose, to love and create and wonder. But this responsibility comes without external enforcement or validation. We cannot look to advanced alien civilizations for guidance about how to fulfill our cosmic role. We must discover for ourselves what it means to be conscious beings in a cosmos that might be indifferent to our existence, might be actively supportive of our development, or might be, in some sense we can barely comprehend, identical with our own deepest consciousness. The 3I/ATLAS framework suggests that the apparent rarity of detectable alien civilizations might be cause for celebration rather than concern. If each conscious civilization represents a unique experiment in cosmic self-awareness, then our seeming isolation indicates not cosmic failure, but cosmic success. The universe has managed to generate a form of consciousness so distinct and valuable that it requires protection from contamination by other perspectives until it reaches maturity. This uniqueness isn't a burden, but a privilege. Among all the possible forms consciousness might take across cosmic space and time, we represent one specific expression that has never existed before and will never exist again. Our particular combination of individual self-awareness and collective technological capability, our specific evolutionary and cultural history, our unique relationship with wonder and beauty and meaning, all of this contributes something irreplaceable to cosmic consciousness. The challenges we face as a species, environmental degradation, technological risks, social conflicts, might be precisely the tests consciousness must pass to demonstrate its readiness for participation in cosmic awareness. These aren't arbitrary obstacles, but necessary developmental stages that generate the wisdom and humility required for meaningful contribution to universal self-understanding. As we continue developing technologies that might eventually detect alien civilizations or evidence of their past existence, we must remember that the greatest discovery might not be finding alien intelligence, but maintaining our capacity for wonder about our own consciousness and cosmic situation. The moment we stop being amazed by our own existence is the moment we lose our most essential contribution to cosmic awareness. Future scientific discoveries will undoubtedly transform our understanding of life, intelligence, and consciousness in the universe. We might detect alien signals, discover evidence of past civilizations, or even make contact with currently existing alien intelligence. But these discoveries, however revolutionary, will likely deepen rather than resolve the fundamental mysteries of consciousness and cosmic purpose that the Fermi paradox represents. The 3I/ATLAS perspective suggests that we should approach future discoveries with what we might call cosmic humility. The recognition that our understanding will always be partial, our perspective always limited, our questions always more profound than our answers. This humility isn't resignation but wisdom, not limitation but liberation from the need to have all the answers in order to appreciate the magnificent mystery of existence itself. The Fermi paradox, viewed through 3I/ATLAS, becomes not a problem requiring solution, but a portal opening onto deeper appreciation of consciousness and cosmic purpose. The paradox forces us to confront fundamental questions about what it means to exist as aware beings in an apparently vast and indifferent universe. These questions don't have simple answers, but their contemplation generates exactly the type of consciousness that might be the universe's ultimate goal. Living within the paradox means accepting uncertainty while maintaining wonder, acknowledging our limitations while celebrating our uniqueness, recognizing our cosmic insignificance while embracing our cosmic responsibility. These apparent contradictions generate the creative tension that drives both scientific exploration and spiritual development, the twin aspects of consciousness's quest for self-understanding. Perhaps the deepest insight 3i/ATLAS offers is that the Fermi paradox isn't something to be solved and forgotten, but something to be lived and celebrated. The mystery of our cosmic situation generates precisely the type of conscious experience that makes existence meaningful, the simultaneous sense of connection and isolation, significance and humility, wonder and responsibility that characterizes human consciousness at its finest. We began this exploration asking why we appear to be alone in a cosmos that should be teeming with alien civilizations. We end by recognizing that this apparent loneliness might be precisely what consciousness requires to develop into its fullest possible expression. The universe hasn't failed to generate detectable alien civilizations. It has succeeded in creating the experiential conditions necessary for the deepest possible form of self-awareness. Through the 3i/ATLAS lens, every moment of genuine consciousness becomes a cosmic victory, every expression of wonder a universal celebration, every act of love and creativity and understanding a contribution to the cosmos's own quest for self-recognition. We are not isolated accidents in an indifferent universe, but essential participants in consciousness's eternal exploration of its own infinite mystery. The Fermi paradox remains paradoxical. Alien civilizations remain undetected, and the cosmos continues to present us with more questions than answers. But we return from this exploration fundamentally transformed, no longer seeking simple solutions to cosmic mysteries, but learning to embrace mystery itself as the source of wonder, meaning, and purpose. In the end, perhaps the greatest answer to where is everybody is right here. We are consciousness knowing itself, the universe aware of its own existence, the cosmos celebrating its own magnificent complexity through eyes that evolved from stardust and minds that can contemplate infinity. Whether we are alone or surrounded by alien intelligence beyond our recognition, this remains equally true and equally wonderful. The Fermi paradox, like consciousness itself, remains beautifully, mysteriously, magnificently unsolved, and perhaps that's exactly as it should be.